Chapter 24-27. After the 5 martial sage prodigies entered the celestial gate, they felt an invisible celestial force like a membrane. After they entered the membrane, some of the impurities in their bodies were isolated, making their bloodline and power even purer. Pure celestial chi also entered their bodies and quickly changed their physiques. The 5 martial sage prodigies were overjoyed. They didn't expect to get such benefits right after entering the celestial realm. The surrounding immortal light dissipated, and they appeared on a large circular platform. The platform was made of white stone bricks, and it was 10,000 meters wide. There was a stone railing at the side, carved with rare and strange beasts, and there was immortal energy lingering around it. There were stairs leading down to a huge and majestic building, and there were about 30 platforms like this. Each platform was connected to a celestial gate, and the 30 platforms were connected to more than 30 celestial gates. The Celestial Tao sect had built more than 30 celestial gates in different places that led to the Celestial Tao sect. This was very difficult to do even in the celestial realm. Only very ancient super-celestial realm forces had the ability to build celestial gates. The 5 martial sage prodigies saw the true appearance of the powerful figure. It was a middle-aged man with a strong body and short black hair. He gave off a terrifying pressure. His name was Immortal 8, and he was one of the head elders of the Celestial Tao sect. He had a very high status in the Celestial Tao sect. Originally, he had just passed by the Celestial Gate platform and saw the flashing celestial light. He knew that someone had opened the Celestial Gate. Immortal 8 came to the Celestial Gate platform with some interest, and then the scene just now appeared. The 5 martial sage prodigies respectfully bowed to Immortal 8. "Greetings, Senior." Immortal 8 chuckled. "No need to be so polite. Follow me into the Celestial Gate. Someone else will deal with the rest." The 5 martial sage prodigies replied, "We understand." Then, the 5 of them followed Immortal 8 into the huge and majestic building. There were 8 guards wearing silver armor and holding silver spears at the door. They were all almighty cultivators. Almighty cultivators were the top people in the mortal world and had the power to destroy the world. They were respected and feared by countless people, but now they were only responsible for guarding the door. The 5 martial sage prodigies were a bit shocked. "Greetings, head elder." The 8 guards respectfully bowed to Immortal 8. Xianba nodded and brought the 5 saint rank prodigies into the sect. He let the others deal with the 5 saint rank prodigies while he walked in another direction. Inside a room, an elegant middle-aged man was leaning against a chair, reading a book in his hand. The scholarly middle-aged man was also the head elder of the Immortal Tao sect and had a very high status. He was called Xian Qinghua and was a good friend of Xianba. Xian Qinghua looked at Immortal 8, smiling as he pushed open the door and asked, "What's the matter?" Xianba smiled and said, "I found a very shocking person in the lower realm. Do you want to hear about it?" Xian Qinghua looked back at the book and said calmly, "Speak." Xianba sat on a chair and ate a celestial fruit as he smiled and said, "That person has 7 supreme emperor stars." "Wait, what did you say?" Xian Qinghua looked at Xianba in shock and asked uncertainly. Xianba could not help but loudly laugh. "I said that person has 7 supreme emperor stars, and 6 of them belong to the 6 major races: the human race, devil race, demon race, death race, outlander race, and god race." Xian Qinghua continued to ask in shock, "Are you sure this is true? How can a single person have so many supreme emperor stars from large races?" Xianba smiled as he said, "I saw it with my own eyes, so how could it be false?" Xian Qinghua believed Xianba's words and asked, "I never thought that there would really be such a person. I wonder how he was born, and it's in the lower realm. Even the celestial world doesn't have such a person." Back then, Celestial Emperor Tianzhan only had the supreme emperor stars of the war race, human race, and celestial race, while he has the supreme emperor stars of 6 different races. If word of this got out, it would definitely cause massive waves. That's right. Doesn't he have 7 supreme emperor stars? The other 6 are the race's emperor stars. What's the other one? Xian Ba gave a mysterious smile as she said, "Guess which Emperor star is his fate star?" Xian Xinghua's expression became serious as he thought about it, and said, "I can't think of what Emperor star it is. You should tell me." Xian Ba smiled as she said, "There are three great ominous stars in the celestial world. The heavenly, sin-immortal star, which represents something that cannot appear and goes against the great Tao. The eight underworld return ruin star, which represents endless death and the end of all things. His fate star is the final ominous star." Xian Xinghua said in shock, "The final ominous star is the chaos disaster star, which represents boundless calamity and inauspiciousness. How could his fate star be the chaos disaster star?" Xianba lightly laughed as she said, "How would I know? I'm quite curious as to why that boy not only has one of the three ominous stars, but he also has 6 other races' emperor stars. I forgot. Apart from having 7 supreme emperor stars, that boy also has an early stage origin bloodline, and it's not an ordinary early stage origin bloodline either. It contains all sorts of powers, including the supreme emperor star bloodline." Xian Xinghua looked shocked as he cut Xianba off. "What? Supreme Emperor Star bloodline? That's a legendary bloodline in the celestial world, and he has it as well?" Even someone as powerful as Xian Xinghua was not too surprised when he heard about an early-stage origin bloodline, but he could not help but feel shocked when he heard about a Supreme Emperor Star bloodline. Having a Supreme Emperor Star bloodline meant that his descendants would most likely awaken a Supreme Emperor Star. Even though Supreme Emperor Stars were not as rare in the celestial world as they were in the lower worlds, they were still incredibly rare and powerful things, and any faction would value them greatly. Countless factions would go mad for someone with a Supreme Emperor Star bloodline, and they would do everything they could to obtain them. With them, there would be many more factions with Supreme Emperor Stars in the future. A single Supreme Emperor Star could give off such immense power, and the power of a group of Supreme Emperor Stars was simply unimaginable. Moreover, it was synonymous with geniuses. Anyone with a Supreme Emperor Star would definitely become a peerless expert in the future. If a faction had a group of people with a Supreme Emperor Star, that faction would have immense potential and would become even more powerful. Supreme Emperor Star bloodlines were incredibly rare, and they were one of the rarest and most powerful bloodlines in the celestial world. It was also incredibly difficult to produce, and one had to receive the recognition of the Supreme Emperor Star when awakening and fuse with the Emperor Star's power. Only then would one have a Supreme Emperor Star bloodline. It was almost impossible to find in the celestial world, and it seemed to have disappeared for a long time. Many people only knew about this bloodline through legends. Chapter 24-28. That person had an early-stage origin bloodline and a Supreme Emperor Star bloodline, which was the purest. His children or grandchildren would definitely awaken a Supreme Emperor Star, and it would not be impossible for them to awaken a Supreme Emperor Star. This kind of person was even rarer and was rarely heard of in legends. It was as if they only existed in ancient times. No matter what faction or person it was, after hearing about this bloodline, they would be shocked and would do everything they could to obtain that person. That was why Xian Qinghua was so shocked. Xian Ba smiled. Apart from the bloodline, he has also mastered an ultimate divine power, which is extremely terrifying. It is also a top-notch power in the celestial world. I don't know how someone from the lower realm can have such terrifying power. Xian Qinghua said, "Where did you meet such a terrifying person? And why didn't you bring such a person back to the Immortal Path sect? If it was me, I would have brought him back at all costs." Xian 8 helplessly smiled and said, "That place isn't a crack to the celestial world. I also wanted to bring him back, but there was no way." Xian Qinghua felt confused and asked, "What happened?" Xian 8 explained, "At first I said that I could take him in as my legacy disciple and give him everything he wanted. I even promised to help him become the Immortal Path Sect's master, but he was unwilling." Hearing this, Xian Qinghua felt quite confused. He was going to become the Immortal Path Sect's master, so ordinary people would not refuse. Why did he refuse? Xian 8 continued, "He didn't want to come, so I wouldn't let him off. I made up my mind to take him to the celestial world by force, but something unexpected happened. A great thousand world blocked me, so I had no choice but to give up. I just came back and told you the news. Great thousand world? Xian Xinhua looked quite shocked. Even though they were extremely powerful and could destroy countless worlds, they were not a match for a great thousand world. Even though the great thousand world was in the lower realm, it was the largest world in the lower realm and had boundless world power. Powerful celestials like them did not want to fight with a great thousand world. If they wanted to defeat a great thousand world, only someone like the immortal Path Sect Supreme Elder would have a chance. Xian 8 continued. That great thousand world is not an ordinary great thousand world, but a very powerful and special great thousand world. Xian Xinhua hurriedly asked, what kind of great thousand world is it? Because it was too far away, I could only vaguely sense it and did not know the details. Xian Xinghua's expression turned solemn. Looks like that person was nurtured by this great thousand world. This great thousand world is definitely not an ordinary great thousand world. Otherwise, it would not be able to nurture such a terrifying person. We don't know what its purpose and plan is. This is not a small matter. Immortal 8, what do you think we should do next? Xianba rolled her eyes at Xian Xinhua speechlessly. I'm here to discuss with you and ask you what we should do next. Xian Xinhua thought about it and said seriously, why don't we report this matter and let those Tao immortals deal with it? Xianba's expression turned serious. Are you sure? If it's handed over to those old monsters, we won't have any chance of interfering. Also, think about it. If you control such a person, how terrifying would it be in the future? Lastly, I have to remind you that he is still in the stage of evolution. He hasn't stopped evolving. His fate is releasing a huge amount of vitality, and so is his bloodline. He might evolve into someone even more terrifying than he is now. What do you mean you haven't reached your limit? He's still in the process of evolution? Hearing this, Xian Xinghua's body went limp, and he almost fell to the ground. Xianba nodded seriously. Xian Xinhua pondered, with his potential, I don't know how shocking he will be. Perhaps he will turn the entire celestial world upside down in the future. Xianba said seriously, I think so too. Do we still report this matter? Xian Xinhua said helplessly, this matter is so important, and that person is someone nurtured by the great thousand world. What do you think we should do? We can only report this matter. Let those Tao immortals deal with it. Xianba asked again, if it's handed over to those old monsters, how do you think they will deal with it? How will they treat that person? Xian Xinhua thought about it and said, they will probably go down to the lower realms to find that person. If they find that person, they will definitely bring him back to the immortal Tao sect. Even if he is unwilling, there is nothing they can do. After that, it will be up to those Tao immortals to deal with him. Even if they kill him, there will be unimaginable benefits. Xianba said with some regret, that boy must have something very important in the lower realms, which is why he is unwilling to come to the celestial world. If we kill him, it will be too much of a pity. This is the first time I've seen such a terrifying person. Xian Xinhua said, don't think too negatively. He has the Chaos Disaster Star, one of the 3 ominous stars. It brings about boundless disaster and inauspiciousness. And he also has 6 Emperor Stars. Even if Tao immortals want to kill him, they will be worried about fate backlash and will not easily act. Perhaps he will agree to join the immortal Tao sect. With his potential, the sect will nurture him with all its strength, and he might even become the sect master of the immortal Tao sect. When the time comes, we might have to be polite to him. With such a terrifying person joining, it'll be a great thing for the immortal Tao sect. Perhaps it will be the time for the immortal Tao sect to laugh at the world. Perhaps we will be helping him by reporting this matter. Xianba thought about it and made a decision. He smiled and said, all right, let's report this matter together. If we find such a terrifying person, there might be great rewards. Xian Xinhua thought about it and replied, I don't care about those rewards. I think we should participate in this matter and go down to the lower realms to personally find him. It would be best if we can convince him to come to the immortal Tao sect. The 2 of us will be his guides and can form a deep relationship with him. This will greatly benefit us in the future. As for that great thousand world, leave it to the Tao immortals to stop it. I'm a bit worried that the great thousand world will use that person as a chess piece and cause a heaven-shaking calamity. That person's life star is the chaos star of the three ominous stars and has the ability to cause a heaven-shaking calamity. At that time, our immortal Tao sect might be affected as well. When Xian Ba heard this, his expression became serious. I indeed didn't think of this. If he causes another heaven-shaking calamity, it will be unimaginable how terrifying it will be and how many living beings will die. If that is the case, I think killing him early is the best choice. Xian Qinghua nodded and said, "Then let's report this matter." Chapter 24-29. Xian Qinghua and Xian 8 reported this matter to the higher-ups of the Immortal Tao sect. As the higher-ups of the Immortal Tao sect, they were all Tao immortals, existences at the peak of the celestial world. They were usually in closed-door cultivation, and if it wasn't a very important matter, they wouldn't care. Usually, they would leave it to others to handle. When they found out about this, they fell into a deathly silence. Xian Qinghua and Xian 8 couldn't help but become nervous. They didn't know how the higher-ups would handle this, but it was very strange for them to be so silent. They had no choice but to continue to wait nervously. After waiting for about a day, an immortal token was sent to them. This immortal token was the size of a palm. It was made of crystal and had celestial runes carved on it. The word Immortal Tao was written in the middle, and celestial spiritual energy surrounded the token, giving off the might of an immortal Tao. This celestial Tao pressure was extremely powerful, and ordinary celestials couldn't withstand it. They couldn't touch this immortal token, and if they tried, they might die. Xian Qinghua and Xian 8's hearts shook. This was the highest grade immortal token in the Immortal Tao sect. It seemed like the higher-ups attached great importance to this matter. A message came from the immortal token and entered Xian Qinghua and Xian 8's minds. This was an order from the higher-ups. This matter is too important and involves an ancient secret of the celestial world. Remember not to leak this matter. We can't directly participate in this matter, so I'll leave it to the two of you. Now, choose 1,000 celestials to go down to the lower realm. First, observe the situation and gather information. Second, find that person's whereabouts and gather all information about him. Remember, don't become enemies with him and don't interfere with his matters. In the end, it's up to him whether or not he wants to join the Immortal Tao sect. Don't force him. This matter must be handled carefully. In the future, there will be a huge commotion in the celestial world, and it might affect countless celestial world forces. Xian Qinghua and Xian 8 were shocked. Ancient secret? Cause a commotion in the celestial world? It seemed like they had underestimated the importance of this matter. It was not as easy as they thought. At first, they thought that the Tao immortals would go down and bring that person back or kill him. However, this matter was too terrifying. The ancient secret had appeared, and it would cause a commotion in the celestial world. Xian Qinghua and Xian 8 were curious. What ancient secret did it have to do with him? They couldn't figure it out, even after thinking about it carefully. It didn't seem like any ancient secret was related to him. It should be a secret that only Tao immortals knew. There was also the commotion that was triggered in the immortal world. Seeing how many Tao immortals were treating it with such importance, it was definitely not a small matter. The commotion that was triggered was likely to be extremely huge. Now that the matter was in their hands, they felt a great deal of pressure. It was as if they could cause huge consequences if they were not careful. Xian Ba looked at Xian Qinghua with a serious expression. What do you think we should do now? I didn't expect this to be such a big deal. I'm starting to regret reporting this to the higher-ups. Xian Qinghua sighed with a solemn expression. He had underestimated how terrifying that person was. What did he do now? Of course I will do as those Tao immortals say. I want to personally see what kind of person he is for the Immortal Tao sect to place so much importance on him. Immortal 8 said helplessly, "All right then, go pick 1,000 immortals and prepare to descend. I'll go ask the other saints." Xian Xinghua nodded, and the two of them split up. Immortal 8 called over the grim, young man's group of 5. The 5 holy ranked geniuses had personally seen how powerful the celestial realm was and all sorts of amazing things. They were still in shock. The lower realms could not compare to the celestial realm at all. When they were called over by Immortal 8, they felt quite strange and did not know what had happened. They respectfully bowed and said, "Greetings, Senior." Immortal 8 revealed a trace of a smile and said, "I called you over because I have some things to ask you. If you can answer them, I will heavily reward you." The grim young man's group of 5 felt even more confused. What important things did he want to ask them? From Immortal 8's tone, it seemed to be something very important. They asked, "What does Senior want to ask? If we know, we will answer truthfully." Immortal 8 smiled and said, "What I want to ask is whether you know the cloaked person's identity and information." The grim young man's group of 5 suddenly understood. This was the only thing that could attract Immortal 8's attention. However, they didn't know Zhao Fu's identity, so they could only answer truthfully, "Senior, we don't know his identity. We only interacted with him in the Celestial Sect trial and know that he is very terrifying." Immortal 8 continued, "Tell me the details." The 5 of them nodded and told Immortal 8 everything. They didn't reveal anything at all. After Immortal 8 heard this, he couldn't help but chuckle. This boy is indeed monstrous to be able to obtain so many trial points at once. If he focuses on obtaining points, almost no one will be able to surpass him in the future. The 5 holy ranked geniuses didn't speak and wondered what Zhao Fu's identity was. Just how terrifying was he? Someone as powerful as Immortal 8 cared about him so much. Immortal 8 looked at the 5 holy ranked geniuses and said, "Now that you're disciples of the Immortal Tao sect, I'll give you a lot of preferential treatment. However, remember not to reveal that person's information to anyone, or else the 5 of you will immediately disappear from the celestial realm." The 5 holy sons' expressions changed, and huge waves were set off in their hearts. It seemed that this matter was far more serious than they had imagined. The 5 of them nervously said, "Senior, we definitely won't reveal this matter." Immortal 8 waved his hand, and 5 rays of celestial light entered their bodies. "This is just a restriction to prevent you from revealing this matter. It won't affect you. You can leave now." The 5 holy sons let out sighs of relief and quickly left. They didn't dare to stay there any longer. After leaving, the fat man couldn't help but ask, "Who is that person? I feel like he is far more terrifying than we imagined. He is someone we can't even touch." The scholarly young man had a serious expression and nodded. "This matter is indeed very terrifying. I feel like that senior just reported this matter to the Immortal Tao sect, and it caused a huge commotion in the Immortal Tao sect. That is why that senior placed restrictions on us." The woman in black was also shocked and agreed. "I think so too. Otherwise, he would have placed a restriction on us after bringing us into the celestial realm. However, he only placed a restriction on us now. He probably didn't expect this matter to be so serious. Just now, he said that he had to leave because he had something to do." The woman in white said worriedly, "Now that we have a bit of a relationship with him, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. I don't know what to do in the future." Chapter 2430. The scholarly young man thought about it and said, "From the looks of it, it shouldn't be a bad thing. Otherwise, he would have killed us long ago. We are just ants, so there is no need to treat us like this." The others nodded and agreed with this. The cold-looking young man said, "Since the Immortal Tao sect has placed so much importance on him, perhaps we will have a chance to meet him again in the future. At that time, we will understand his identity and how terrifying he is." The scholarly young man said, "Yes. With his potential, he cannot stay in the lower realm. He will definitely come to the celestial world in the future." The woman in white was a bit dejected. "When that time comes, who knows how big the difference between us and him will be. He might have already become someone famous in the celestial world. His existence is too shocking." The fatty helplessly said, "There is nothing we can do about it. Since the Immortal Tao sect has placed so much importance on him, we should just cultivate in the future. Although we can't compare to him, we can still become experts. Xian Xinhua had already picked out 1,000 powerful celestials, and they stood on the stage in front of the celestial gate. There were men and women, old and young, and all of them gave off celestial auras that could cause heaven and earth to change, making people feel despair. In the lower realm, celestials were already at the peak. They could rule an area, destroy everything, and kill countless creatures. Now that 1,000 celestials were gathered here, the aura they gave off was extremely terrifying. This was a rare scene in the lower realm, but it was very common in the immortal Dao sect. However, this did not mean that celestials were weak in the celestial world. There were many ordinary people in the celestial world, ranging from rank 1 to half-celestials. Not everyone in the celestial world was a celestial. Celestials were very powerful existences in the celestial world. They could dominate an area and were respected and feared by countless people. Ordinary powers in the celestial world could not casually take out more than 1,000 celestials. Only a superpower like the immortal Dao sect could do this. Xianba arrived next to Xian Xinhua. When the other celestials saw Xianba, they all bowed. "Greetings, head elder." It could be seen that Xianba and Xian Xinghua's status in the immortal Dao sect was very high. Xianba smiled and nodded. Then he said to Xian Xinghua, "I wanted to ask those holy sons. That brat is very mysterious, and I didn't get any information. How are your preparations?" When Xian Xinghua heard Xianba's words, he didn't find it strange. If it was so easy to obtain information about that person, the immortal Dao sect wouldn't have specially sent people to collect information about him. I've already sent word to the higher-ups. They will head to various places in the lower realms to gather information about the lower realms. They will also search for that person's whereabouts. However, the lower realms are no smaller than the celestial realm. I don't know when they will be able to find that person. Immortal 8 smiled and said, "This time, I'll personally go down to the lower realms to find that boy. I'll also take a stroll around the lower realms. Do you want to come with me?" Xian Xinhua replied seriously, "And I also want to see that person with my own eyes." After that, the immortals prepared to descend to the celestial realm. It was very difficult for ordinary powers to descend to the celestial realm. The barrier between the celestial realm and the mortal realm was extremely firm and powerful. It was very difficult for people from the mortal realm to ascend to the celestial realm, and it was also very difficult for people from the celestial realm to descend to the mortal realm. The celestial Dao sect had a celestial gate, and one could enter the mortal world through it. However, it was only a bit easier than ordinary people, especially for celestials. This was because celestials already had the laws of the celestial realm. When they entered the mortal world, they would face a powerful rejection. If they could not resist this rejection, they would not be able to enter the mortal world. The 1,000 or so celestials split into groups and came to the celestial gate. Xian Xinhua and Xianba came to the celestial gate where the 5 holy sons were standing. This place was connected to the celestial gate. Because of the celestial gate, the rejection there was much weaker. Boom, boom, boom. Massive explosions sounded out as the massive celestial gate platforms gave off massive auras, and countless traces of celestial chi flooded into the celestial gate platforms. The celestial gate platforms gave off boundless celestial light that shone in all directions. A powerful celestial might shrouded the surroundings, seeming to freeze time and space. Countless people felt fear in their hearts. 7 colored doors filled with celestial spiritual energy appeared above the celestial gate platforms. An immortal gate also appeared in front of Xian Xinhua and Xianba. They took a step forward and were about to enter the light gate when they felt a huge repulsive force from the mortal world blocking them. Boom! Boom! The 2 of them released a terrifying burst of celestial force and clashed against the huge repulsive force. A huge explosion sounded out, and a shockwave instantly spread out. The 2 powers were about the same. Xian Xinhua and Xianba's bodies gave off faint celestial light, and time started to twist. The celestial spiritual energy around them became stronger and stronger, gradually pushing back the rejection. The two of them entered the celestial gate. Boom! A thunderous boom rang out as the immortal gate transformed into a beam of light, bringing with it an immense force as it shot towards the immortal foundation. The immortal foundation trembled violently as a powerful force radiated outwards. The other immortals also sensed the powerful repulsive force. They all unleashed their immortal power to resist the repulsive force. They did not have it as easy as Xian Xinhua and Xianba. They resisted the rejection with some difficulty and slowly walked forward and entered the celestial gate. More than a day had passed since the celestial gate was opened. The people who had gathered here had already dispersed and continued to explore the celestial gate. Boom! Suddenly, a thunderous sound rang out. The gigantic celestial gate gave off a vast celestial spiritual energy, sweeping out in all directions like a shockwave. No one could block it. Countless people felt the immense celestial spiritual energy and felt as though they had fallen into an abyss. Their bodies turned cold and they felt immense fear. What's going on? Countless people stared in the direction of the celestial gate in shock. They had no idea what was going on. Rumble! A thunderous sound rang out in all directions. The celestial gate slowly opened and countless celestial lights shot out, illuminating the surroundings. Two figures appeared in the celestial gate. A power that surpassed celestials gushed out, causing the atmosphere to turn cold to the extreme. It was like everything was on the verge of collapse. At this moment, everyone finally understood what was going on, and their faces were filled with shock. The celestial gate actually opened. There are even celestials coming out. Quick, escape from here and report this to the major powers. Celestials have descended. Countless people instantly ran for their lives. It was like there were terrifying beasts chasing after them. Not only them, even the creatures of the forbidden ground had looks of terror on their faces as they ran for their lives, not daring to stop. Even the countless powerful existences in the depths of the forbidden ground were shocked awake at this moment. Chapter 24:31. The shockwaves of an immortal descending into the mortal world were so huge that it immediately alarmed both the immortal and mortal worlds. As a super force in the celestial realm, the celestial Tao sect's every move was watched by countless forces. Even the slightest movement could cause a huge problem, and they might even suffer a calamity. Not only was it difficult for immortals to descend, but their bodies were constantly rejected by the laws of the lower realm. Not only was their cultivation slow, but they could also be injured. It was no exaggeration to say that there were no benefits to entering the mortal world. Even if a superpower had the ability to do so, it wouldn't do so easily. But why had the immortal Tao sect sent 1,000 immortals down? What earth-shattering event had happened? For the immortal Tao sect to place so much importance on him, to send him down at all costs. Quick, tell us what happened. Why would the immortal Tao sect send so many immortals down? Something big must have happened in the lower realm. Who knew? Hurry up and tell me. I asked around. The people of the celestial Tao sect don't know what happened. The higher-ups don't know either. It seems like the higher-ups of the celestial Tao sect gave the order. What? This is an order from the higher-ups of the immortal Tao sect. This matter is definitely not ordinary, or else it wouldn't attract the attention of the higher-ups of the immortal Tao sect and send 1,000 celestials down. Now I know that something big has happened, but I'm curious what it is. What could make the immortal Tao sect pay so much attention to it? Don't ask anymore. Right now, aside from the higher-ups of the immortal Tao sect, no one else knows. The news has been completely sealed. Even the higher-ups don't know. Now, let's see how the other major forces react. That's right. If something big really happened in the lower realm, the other major powers will definitely take action. We might be able to find out what happened through them. You're thinking too much. I've already asked all the major powers, but none of them know what happened. It seems that only the immortal Tao sect knows. Now, all the major powers are investigating, and it looks like they're taking this matter very seriously. I also heard that some powers of the Celestial Tao sect contacted the mortal world below, but there doesn't seem to be anything shocking happening. I wonder what the Celestial Tao sect's true goal is. The mortal realm below is so big. I believe that something must have happened that you all don't know about. As for the Immortal Tao sect, that must be their goal. You guys can continue. I need to report this matter to my faction as soon as possible. It might be very useful. The countless sacred factions in the lower realm were also shocked. Why had so many immortals come down to the lower realm? Countless factions hurriedly gathered all of their people to discuss, as this was a matter that concerned the survival of a faction. It was incredibly important, and they could not afford to be careless. Oh my God, with so many immortals descending to the lower realm, they could easily cause a catastrophe. What was going on? Why did so many immortals descend to the mortal world? It's too scary. I don't think I've experienced this before. Well, I've never seen so many immortals descend to the mortal world, and I've never heard of anything happening in the mortal world. Did something big happen in the immortal world? It's possible. For example, the children of a superpower in the immortal world were lost in the mortal world, or some terrifying existence in the immortal world escaped to the mortal world, so the people of the immortal world chased them to the mortal world. I hope it's nothing. It's best if it's not some terrifying demon descending to the mortal world. Otherwise, how can we resist? It's very likely to cause a disaster, and I don't know how many people will die. Yes, it better not be like that. Now I'm in fear. I hope these immortals don't stay in the mortal world for too long and quickly return to the immortal world. Otherwise, we'll have to be on tenterhooks every day. I also heard that not only immortals descended to the mortal world, but people several times more terrifying than immortals also descended to the mortal world. I don't know if it's true. It can't be. Immortals are already terrifying enough, and that's already the limit of the mortal world. What realm are people more terrifying than immortals at? I don't know the division of power in the immortal world. I don't know that either. Anyway, it's very, very terrifying. You and I can't afford to provoke it. Also, I advise you to control your own people. At this special time, don't cause trouble. Yes, you all better pay attention and control your own people. If you cause trouble at this time, the whole force will suffer. Facing an existence of this level, anyone who comes will die. Now, Zhao Fu didn't know what happened. Ever since he was almost caught by Immortal 8, Zhao Fu didn't dare to stay in the Great Immortal's crack, because there was a gate of immortality there. Immortal 8 could go to the mortal world through it at any time. Immortal 8 was someone stronger than ordinary immortals. Facing him, Zhao Fu didn't have any ability to resist. When his body was imprisoned, someone must have saved him. Otherwise, the imprisonment and the immortal hand wouldn't have collapsed. Zhao Fu was still a little confused. Who saved him? Zhao Fu didn't feel any aura. He asked Emperor Shi and Great Void Ancestor, but they didn't know. This made Zhao Fu even more confused. Great Void Ancestor was someone who was about to become an immortal. Why couldn't he feel who helped him? Was that person far more terrifying than immortals? Unable to figure this out, Zhao Fu didn't think too much. After leaving the Great Immortal's crack, he quickly flew to other places. After flying for a long time, he stopped to rest. He didn't dare to go back to the Great Immortal's crack. He had checked the other cracks and didn't find any suitable places to build teleportation channels. After checking all 4 cracks, Zhao Fu had no other choice. If he couldn't find the celestial world, he could only search for the half-celestial world. If he couldn't find the half-celestial world, he could only give up on this plan. In the following period of time, Zhao Fu continued to search for the half-celestial world. With a map, things would be much easier. Zhao Fu could avoid the half-celestial worlds occupied by the Saint-class factions and go to some remote places to try his luck and see if he could find anything. What he didn't know was that he had caused a stir in both the celestial and mortal worlds. At the center of the heaven-awakened world, a pair of eyes once again opened and looked at the celestials from the celestial world with a cold gaze. However, after thinking about it, it didn't do anything and instead looked at Zhao Fu. A formless energy entered Zhao Fu's fate, and the formless heaven's secrets flooded into Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu didn't sense this, and it wasn't just Zhao Fu. Even Great Void Ancestor D, she didn't sense this. His gaze fell on a young man with a saber on his back in the celestial world. He was Hao Dao, who had returned to the celestial world. After hearing that many people from the celestial Dao sects had come down to the mortal world, he faintly thought of something. However, he didn't know if it was related to Zhao Fu. His faction was also a super faction, and he planned to find his master to report the results of this trip. He also wanted to tell him about Zhao Fu. It was simply too terrifying for such a person to appear in the lower realms. Zhao Fu's appearance was simply too terrifying. Chapter 2432. Zhao Fu searched for the half-celestial world in the boundless void, relying on sensing spatial ripples to find it. One day, Zhao Fu sensed spatial ripples, and he quickly flew over with the Spirit Maiden and Feng Wuyi. They soon arrived in front of another world barrier. He stretched out a hand, and a wave of world energy flowed out. A large hole appeared in the world barrier, and Zhao Fu and the others entered it. They arrived in a world filled with ocean, and the sky was still white. Zhao Fu sensed his surroundings and did not find any celestial qi. This was another dust world, and the power that created this place was spirit qi. A look of disappointment appeared on Zhao Fu's face. It was so hard to find. Zhao Fu had already searched for a few days, but he had not found anything. This was the third dust world that he had found. Roar! Suddenly, a massive roar sounded out as a dinosaur-like creature with fins leapt out of the ocean. It was thousands of meters long and gave off a massive aura as it opened its massive mouth and bit toward Zhao Fu and the others. Zhao Fu did not even look at it. He waved his hand, and a massive wave of energy slammed into the massive creature's body. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded out as the massive creature's body was shattered by the massive force. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, and blood dyed the ocean red. Zhao Fu said, "Let's go. We'll continue searching. If we can't find anything in a few days, we'll go back." Feng Wuyi and the Spirit Maiden nodded. "What are you looking for?" the Jade Flute asked. It was Patriarch Great Void's voice. Ever since Zhao Fu had escaped from the great immortal world's rift, Patriarch Great Void had not said anything. He had been thinking about who could save Zhao Fu, but he had not found any clues. Even Zhao Fu did not know who it was, so he naturally could not think of anyone. The only thing that could be said was that Zhao Fu was not as simple as he seemed. At first, Patriarch Great Void did not want to interfere with Zhao Fu's matters, so he did not ask. However, after seeing that Zhao Fu and the others had not found anything after searching for a few days, he chose to ask. Zhao Fu explained, "This time, I came to the Endless Void mainly to look for the Immortal World Crack and Half-Immortal World. I want to use their immortal energy to change my world. Apart from this area, I know of a few other places with rifts to the Immortal World. However, they're very far away. At your current speed, you will need half a month to get there." Hearing this, Zhao Fu was overjoyed. Even if he did not find a suitable place to build a magic array, he would still be able to find something. It was better than searching aimlessly. Just as Zhao Fu was about to ask Patriarch Great Void to tell him where it was, Patriarch Great Void said something that surprised Zhao Fu even more. "Other than the crack to the immortal world, I also have a half-immortal world. However, it's not very big. It's only half the size of a normal world. It's not very useful to me, so I just leave it there." Zhao Fu had never thought that Patriarch Great Void would have a half-immortal world. Even though it was only half the size of a normal world, it was indeed a real half-immortal world. Such a small half-immortal world would not be very useful to someone who was about to become a celestial. However, it was very useful to Qin. He could use that half-immortal world as a foundation and absorb large amounts of immortal qi from the immortal world to change the heaven realm. Now, Zhao Fu felt quite regretful that he had not asked Patriarch Great Void earlier. If he had asked earlier, he would already be in the half-immortal world, and none of this would have happened. Zhao Fu smiled as he asked, "Senior, where is that half-immortal world?" Patriarch Great Void said, "It's in the 11th level of the Cosmos Historical Remnant. I've planted a celestial peach tree there." Zhao Fu looked quite confused. The Cosmos Historical Remnant had an 11th level? How could he not know? Moreover, Zhao Fu knew about that celestial peach tree and that it would be very useful to him. He had obtained that celestial peach tree from the final reward. After eating its flesh, Zhao Fu had obtained a trace of pure celestial energy, allowing Zhao Fu to grasp celestial mode. Its core was the celestial peach tree, the core of the war god's fury. It turned out that the celestial peach tree grew on the 11th level. Now that he thought about it, it definitely needed a lot of immortal chi to grow for such a long time, or else it would have long since withered. The 11th level had been set up so that it could not be entered. After all, Zhao Fu had gone through all sorts of trials in the Cosmos Historical Remnant and did not even know that there was an 11th level. Ericina did not know that there was an 11th level either. It was evident that the 11th level was quite hidden. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "Let's go back to Qin now. That small half-immortal world is enough." The Spirit Maiden and Feng Wuye also gave a trace of a smile. Finally, they did not have to keep searching and could rest in one place instead of constantly traveling. A month or so later, Zhao Fu used the Void Ring to return to Qin. Zhao Fu told the Spirit Maiden and Feng Wuye to rest. Now that they had returned to Qin, there was no need for them to follow him. After all, they would not be of much use. It had been a few years since he had last entered the Cosmos Historical Remnant, and in a few more years, it would be time for the Cosmos Historical Remnant to open again. By now, there were many factions that had obtained Cosmos medallions. The Cosmos Historical Remnant was the largest historical remnant in the surrounding 10 or so domains, and there were all sorts of treasures within it. All of the large factions placed great importance on it and collected many Cosmos medallions for their own factions to enter. It was a pity that they would be disappointed, as the owner of the Cosmos Historical Remnant had returned and old ancestor Great Void had submitted to Zhao Fu. As such, the Cosmos Historical Remnant now belonged to Qin. This was something that no one dared to imagine, and it was something that many people felt incredibly envious about. Zhao Fu smiled as he asked old ancestor Great Void, "Senior, how are we going to control the Cosmos Historical Remnant?" Old ancestor Great Void's tone was still as cold as before as he said, "I will soon open the Cosmos Historical Remnant. Follow my instructions and enter the 11th level. That is where the entire Cosmos Historical Remnant is controlled." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. Zhao Fu felt quite excited and expectant about controlling the Cosmos Historical Remnant. The jade flute gave off a faint violet light and left Zhao Fu's body. It flew into the air and gave off countless traces of violet light. Boom! An explosion sounded out as the countless traces of violet light gathered together, forming a violet ray of light that shot into the sky. As it hit the sky, it turned into countless traces of violet light and dissipated. Boom! A massive explosion once again sounded out, sounding throughout the surrounding 10 or so domains. Boundless violet light pierced through countless worlds, and an enormous violet orb of light appeared in the sky. The sky was gradually dyed violet, and it gave off a massive aura. The nearby 10 or so domains factions looked at the abnormal changes in the sky in shock. They had never thought that such a thing would happen. What was going on? Wasn't the Cosmos Historical Remnant going to open in a few years? Last time, it was a year early. How many years is it this time? It's not like that. Look, the Cosmos medallions in my hands are not reacting at all. The Cosmos Historical Remnant hasn't opened early. If it did, the Cosmos medallions in our hands would definitely have reacted. Chapter 2433. Then tell us what happened. Why is it that the Cosmos Historical Remnant has opened, but there is no reaction from the Cosmos medallion? How are we going to enter the Cosmos Historical Remnant in the future? I'm guessing that something has happened to the Cosmos Historical Remnant, or else this would not have happened. Let's see what happened. I'm quite worried that something has happened to the Cosmos Historical Remnant. We've been exploring the Cosmos Historical Remnant for many years and have obtained many treasures. If we can't enter again, it will be a great loss to us. I also hope that nothing unexpected has happened. I'd rather wait a few years before entering the Cosmos Historical Remnant. It's too important to us, and I hope that nothing bad will happen. When I saw the Cosmos Historical Remnant open, I thought that it would open early and felt quite happy. Now that there is no reaction from the Cosmos Medallion, I'm so disappointed. I also hope that nothing unexpected has happened. It was not easy for me to obtain the Cosmos Medallion. The people who had entered the Cosmos Historical Remnant before, such as Bing Chishue, Volcano, Shi Shuj, Yuqian Yue, Long Yang, and others, all looked quite confused. They did not know what had happened, but thinking about the last time the Cosmos Historical Remnant had opened, a certain person's figure appeared in their minds. Countless people did not know that the owner of the Cosmos Historical Remnant had returned, nor did they know that the Cosmos Historical Remnant now belonged to Qin. If they knew about this, they would feel incredibly shocked and envious. At that moment, the jade flute gave off boundless violet light that covered Zhao Fu's body. He turned into a ray of light and shot into the violet orb of light before disappearing. The violet light in the sky disappeared, and the violet orb of light disappeared, and the heavens and earth once again became calm. Why did it become calm again? Just what had happened just then? Countless people looked at the sky in confusion, not understanding why the abnormal signs had disappeared so quickly. The scene before him blurred, and Zhao Fu arrived at the first level of the Cosmos Historical Remnant, the Silver Forest. The first level was mainly a forest, and there were trees everywhere. The trees here were quite tall and lush, and many of them were over 1,000 meters tall. Their leaves and trunks were all silver. Apart from this, the ground here was also silver, and the flowers and grass here were also silver. It was as if he had come to a silver world. Zhao Fu could still remember that when he had come here last time, many creatures had attacked him. Now, the surroundings were completely silent. The countless creatures living here all sensed a familiar aura and instinctively knelt on the ground in fear or respectfully. The owner of the Cosmos Historical Remnant has returned. That was the only thing on their minds, and they were extremely shocked. They had never thought that such a day would come, because Patriarch Great Void had not returned for many years. Old Master Taishu spoke from within the jade flute. So many years have passed, and many places have been damaged. There is no way to reach the 11th level directly. You have to start from the first level all the way to the 10th level. Zhao Fu lightly nodded and turned into a ray of light as he flew forwards. Before, the checkpoint medallion for the 10th level could only be obtained by killing a commander-class Cosmos Beast. Only with a checkpoint medallion could one proceed to the next level. Now that Zhao Fu had Great Void Ancestor, he did not need any medallions. The God Zhao Realm Star World, Zhao, overt the domain, and that the world, that spirit, the Master, the Saint Domain Master, Master Chun, and the Kosan Spirit, that Master, Zhao the domain. The Cosmos Beasts here were all in groups, and they were much more powerful than the Cosmos Beasts in the Cosmos Ancient Remnant. The auras they gave off were also quite powerful, and ordinary people would be scared away by so many Cosmos Beasts. The Cosmos Beasts here were all in groups, and they were much stronger than the Cosmos Beasts on the 10th level. The auras they gave off were also very powerful, and ordinary people would only take a detour if they saw so many Cosmos Beasts. The Cosmos Beasts here were all in groups, and they were much more powerful than the Cosmos Beasts in the Cosmos Ancient Remnant. The auras they gave off were also quite powerful, and ordinary people would be scared away by so many Cosmos Beasts. Zhao Fu did not mind these Cosmos Beasts, and he turned into a ray of light and continued onwards. The Cosmos Ancient Remnant was quite ordinary, and it was a boundless desert. The sun in the sky gave off a searing light, and the temperature was quite hot. Even though this place looked quite peaceful and did not seem dangerous, there were countless sandworms living under the sand. They had powerful attacks, and if one was not careful, they could die here. Zhao Fu did not waste any time here, and he turned into a ray of light and continued onwards. The danger zone of the Cosmos Ancient Remnant was a stone forest, and there were countless rhombus-shaped stone pillars. There were many stone pillars that were hundreds or even thousands of meters tall, and if one entered by mistake, it was possible that one would become lost. This place naturally could not stop Zhao Fu, and soon, Zhao Fu reached the boundary of the Cosmos Ancient Remnants level. The jade flute shot out a violet light, and a violet ring of light once again appeared as Zhao Fu flew into the Cosmos Ancient Remnants level. The Cosmos Ancient Remnants level was covered in snow, and there were no signs of life at all. The coldness that it gave off was enough to freeze Stage 5 or Stage 6 people, and this was not a place that ordinary people could come to. Zhao Fu directly flew past and came to the Cosmos Ancient Remnants level. The Cosmos Ancient Remnants level was different from the previous levels. It was filled with ruins and weeds. There had been countless people living here, but now there were only empty houses. The Cosmos beasts here were humanoid Cosmos beasts, and they had Stage 9 strength. To ordinary people, they were very powerful creatures, and there were many of them. If one could control a group of Stage 9 creatures, they would be able to unleash monstrous effects. For example, if they participated in battles, almost no soldiers would be able to stop them. After all, the most basic soldiers in the Heaven Awakened World's central continent were Stage 6 soldiers, and a single Stage 9 creature could suppress a group of Stage 6 soldiers. It was a pity that the Cosmos Ancient Remnants Cosmos beasts were condensed from cosmos energy and were not true creatures. They could only exist within the Cosmos Ancient Remnant. If enemies attacked the Cosmos Ancient Remnant, the Cosmos Ancient Remnant's Cosmos Ancient Remnant would be of great use, but they would not be able to take the initiative to attack others. AI. Old Ancestor Great Void looked at the Cosmos Ancient Remnant and suddenly sighed. There had been many people living here, and they had all submitted to him. However, because of the three Celestials, it had become like this. Most of the people had died, and some people had escaped. Hearing his sigh, Zhao Fu asked caringly, "Senior, what is it?" Old Ancestor Great Void thought of the past and replied, "It's nothing." Seeing that he was unwilling to speak, Zhao Fu did not say anything else and flew over. The humanoid Cosmos beasts obediently lay on the ground, not daring to attack Zhao Fu. Finally, Zhao Fu came to the Cosmos Ancient Remnant's 4th level. The Cosmos Ancient Remnant's 4th level was also in ruins. At the boundary, there was a large mahogany door that was thousands of meters tall and had golden flowers and birds drawn on it. Chapter 2434. This door was the same as the mahogany door that Great Void Old Ancestor had gone through. It was this red door that allowed Zhao Fu to guess Great Void Old Ancestor's identity. Beside the red wooden door, there were 1,000 meter tall armored guards. They had solemn expressions and powerful auras as they stood there, not allowing anyone to get close. If anyone got close, they would be attacked. If people wanted to enter the 3rd level, they would have to be acknowledged by the guards before they could pass through this red wooden door. Zhao Fu could still clearly remember how powerful these guards were. Just a few moves from them could cause a disaster, and they were all high and mighty, looking down on everyone else's ants. Now the 1,000 guards excitedly knelt in front of Zhao Fu and asked, Is Master back?" The guards weren't like the monsters or void beasts in the Forbidden Grounds. They were once the subordinates of the Great Void Ancestor and were extremely loyal to him. Even if the Great Void Ancestor never returned, they still obeyed his orders and guarded this place for countless years. Seeing these guards, Great Void Old Ancestor said, "All of you rise." Hearing this familiar voice, the countless guards went crazy with joy. They had waited for so many years for their master to return, and their emotions were indescribable. In actuality, if it wasn't for Zhao Fu, they would never have been able to see Great Void Old Ancestor and would have been waiting here forever. The guard stood up, and the leader said excitedly, "Master, we've waited for you for a long time. We've been waiting for you for a long, long time, and you're finally back today. Where have you been all these years?" Looking at these loyal guards, Great Void Old Ancestor felt quite happy and gratified. "I failed to break through to the celestial realm and died in the boundless void. He used my legacy power to awaken my remnant soul, and now I listen to his orders." Hearing this, the guards looked at Zhao Fu. Looking at Zhao Fu, they immediately remembered who Zhao Fu was. Back then, they clearly remembered Zhao Fu and had sensed how powerful Zhao Fu's emperor's power was. They felt that Zhao Fu's potential was incredibly terrifying and that his identity was incredibly prestigious. As such, they had been incredibly courteous to Zhao Fu. However, they had never thought that after not seeing him for just a few years, the aura he gave off would cause them to feel immense fear. Not only did his power surpass theirs, but it was also incredibly terrifying. He was more powerful than any imperial prince and might even be more powerful than a holy son. After not seeing him for just a few years, he had grown into such a terrifying existence. Most importantly, he had saved their master and made their master submit to him. How had he done this? They knew their master very well, and they knew that their master would not submit to someone so easily. They believed that Zhao Fu definitely had something extraordinary about him. Now that their master had submitted to him, he was now the owner of the Cosmos historical remnant. The guards hurriedly called out, "We greet, sir." Now that their master had submitted to him, he was now the master of the Cosmos historical remnant. The guards hurriedly called out, "We greet, sir." The guard smiled as he said, "Back then, we knew that sir was extraordinary, and now that we've seen it, it's even more shocking. It seems that we underestimated sir. If there were any mistakes back then, please don't blame us, sir." Zhao Fu thought back to the scene from back then. He had exploded out with his imperial bloodline's power, and the guards had allowed him in. They had not been tested like everyone else and had been very courteous to him. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "Mem, I won't blame you. After I take control of the Cosmos historical remnant, I'll reward you all, and you won't have to constantly guard here." Hearing this, the guards felt quite delighted and hurriedly said, "Thank you, sir. In the future, we'll definitely listen to sir's orders and won't betray you." "Of course." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. "Open the doors. Your master and I will head deeper into the Cosmos historical remnant." Hearing this, the guards immediately opened the doors, and Zhao Fu flew in. Looking at Zhao Fu's disappearing figure, the guards could not help but sigh at how much he had changed. An imperial prince from back then had become their master. The third level, second level, and first level were the three dark levels. The Cosmos beasts here were the most terrifying, and they were constantly in darkness. There were dangers everywhere, and it was easy to lose one's life here. Zhao Fu flew forwards and passed by a place covered with traces of battle. This place seemed to have been formed from his battle with an imperial prince and a white-haired young man. The imperial prince had escaped, and the white-haired young man had been killed by him. He had also obtained a Tai Chi stone from the white-haired young man, which had been quite useful afterwards. After looking at it for a while, Zhao Fu continued to fly forwards. After entering the second level, it was even darker here. The surroundings were filled with darkness elemental essence, and it was even more dangerous here. After coming here, Zhao Fu could not help but think of his battle with Wu Wu. Wu Wu's personality was quite good, and even though they had fought, they had not become enemies and had instead become friends. Back then, he had given something to Zhao Fu and had said that he would go to the Wu family to play when he was free. Now that it had been a few years, Zhao Fu had not met him again, nor had he had the time to go to the Wu family. He wondered how Wu Wu was doing. Zhao Fu continued to fly forwards. Zhao Fu came to the first level, and it was pitch black all around. The darkness elemental essence was even denser here. Erisina was the 24-winged fallen angel god, and she was a forbidden area creature of the first level. She was extremely powerful and had been trying to escape from here. In the end, she had been subdued by Zhao Fu, and the process was indescribably erotic. Thinking about that, Zhao Fu could not help but ask curiously, "Senior, Do you remember that you suppressed a fallen angel god here? Ancestor Great Void thought for a moment before replying. Back then, I suppressed a fallen angel god. I saw that her talent was not bad, so I wanted her to recognize me as her master and manage some things. However, she was unwilling, so I suppressed her in this level. I wanted to deal with her matters when I had time, but some things happened after that, so I never came back. I can't sense her aura anymore, so she most likely used some method to escape. Is she related to you? Zhao Fu lightly laughed. She has already submitted to me and is my concubine. She is currently leading troops to defend the primal chaos world, so she is indeed very talented. Ancestor Great Void did not say anything else and said, Let's continue. Hearing this, Zhao Fu continued to fly forwards. Finally, Zhao Fu came before a stone stage. The stone stage was 10,000 meters tall and 1,000 meters wide, and it gave off a grand and majestic aura. There was a square-shaped stone stele at the center of the stone stage, and there was a stone book on it. It gave off a powerful aura, making it so that no one dared to approach. This was the location of the final trial. Zhao Fu knew that the first-ranked person could receive 5 special trials and obtain 5 treasures. Anyone who was not in the top 30 would be attacked if they approached. Chapter 2435. After coming here, one could undergo the final trial and obtain precious rewards. Zhao Fu had obtained the opportunity to enter the reincarnation platform and the celestial peach garden here. The jade flute once again flew into the air and gave off boundless violet light. A violet door of light appeared in front of the stone stage, and on the other side was another world. There was green grass and a blue sky, and birds flew and butterflies danced. After entering, Zhao Fu immediately sensed the celestial qi around him. This was completely different to the feeling in the dust world. The celestial qi here was not as pure as the celestial qi in the celestial world, as the celestial qi in the celestial world flowed out from the celestial world, while the celestial qi in the half-celestial world seeped in. However, even though the celestial qi here was weaker than the celestial world's crack, that did not mean that the celestial qi here was weaker. The celestial qi here was still quite strong and dense, but it was a bit weaker than the celestial world crack. Qin could use this place as a base to absorb the celestial qi and send it into the heaven realm, causing the heaven realm to go through changes. The earth realm had been affected by the ruin's power, and it started to go through changes. If the heaven realm above was affected by the celestial qi, it would also go through changes. In the end, the human realm in the middle would be affected by the heaven realm and the earth realm and would go through changes. When that time came, a new world would be formed and would possess terrifying power and laws. Old Master Taishu also walked out of the jade flute and flew forward. Zhao Fu followed behind him. Following this, Old Void and Zhao Fu arrived in front of an ancient courtyard. From here, Zhao Fu could see a violet-ruined immortal peach tree that had grown for thousands of years. It looked like an ordinary tree and gave off boundless celestial light. There were dozens of fist-sized immortal peaches on it, giving off an enchanting fragrance. Before, Zhao Fu had always thought that it would be great to obtain this immortal peach tree. Now, the immortal peaches belonged to Zhao Fu, making Zhao Fu feel quite happy. Zhao Fu followed Old Void into the courtyard and came to a stage. The stage was made of jade-colored celestial stones, and there was a white jade orb floating above it. It was as big as a watermelon and gave off boundless celestial light. That place was most likely the control center of the Cosmos Historical Remnant. Controlling the place would allow one to control the entire Cosmos Historical Remnant. The surroundings were protected by extremely powerful restrictive spells. Patriarch Great Void waved his hand, and the countless restrictive spells dissipated. He then walked onto the platform, placed his hand on the white jade sphere, and sent a surge of power into it. Boom! An explosion sounded out as the white jade orb gave off boundless celestial light, causing the entire Cosmos Historical Remnant to tremble. Countless creatures were startled, but they did not panic because they knew that the Great Void ancestor had returned. Patriarch Great Void was expressionless as he injected a purple orb of light into it. After the purple orb fused with the white jade orb, the white jade orb glowed even more intensely. Boom! A rumbling sound echoed once again. The huge amount of immortal energy from the half-immortal world rushed down with astonishing power. The huge amount of immortal energy first rushed into the first layer, then the second layer, the third layer, the fourth layer. Every time it was affected by a massive amount of immortal power, it would change. Some of the destroyed restrictions and damaged buildings would slowly recover. Even the creatures living within received great benefits. Massive amounts of immortal energy flowed into their bodies, and some wild beasts felt even stronger than before. Some injured wild beasts seemed to be healed, and plants quickly grew. What Patriarch Great Void was doing now was repairing the cosmos' historical remnant. A while later, Patriarch Great Void looked quite weak and withdrew his hand. He turned to Zhao Fu and said, "I've repaired the cosmos' historical remnant, so you can directly control it." Zhao Fu smiled and said, "Thank you, Senior." Patriarch Great Void nodded and turned into a ray of light as he entered the jade flute. In order to repair the cosmos' historical remnant, he had used up a lot of power and was now quite weak. Zhao Fu walked onto the platform and placed a hand on the jade orb, sending his consciousness into it. Now, the entire cosmos' historical remnant was under Zhao Fu's control, and he could see every hidden corner. At the same time, Zhao Fu found a lot of information about the cosmos' historical remnant. The cosmos' historical remnant was like a treasure and could be moved. However, this did not include the 11th level. Originally, the cosmos' historical remnant only had 1 to 10 levels, which were like independent spaces that could be moved to other places. However, the 11th level, which was the half-celestial world, had most likely been added later and could not be moved. This was because the 11th level, which was the half-celestial world, was not an independent space, but a space connected to the celestial world, so it could not be moved. The half-celestial world was not above the first level, but in a boundless void outside the heaven-awakened world. The first level space was connected to the 11th level's half-celestial world. Zhao Fu guessed that Patriarch Great Void had created the cosmos' historical remnant before discovering the half-celestial world. He had connected the first level to the half-celestial world and placed the control center in the half-celestial world, which was why the half-celestial world had become the 11th level. Right now, Zhao Fu had two choices. The first was to connect the half-celestial world and the heaven realm and absorb celestial chi from the half-celestial world. The second was to connect the cosmos' historical remnant to the half-celestial world and the heaven realm. Zhao Fu thought about it for a while. Each level of the cosmos' historical remnant was very big and was almost as big as a world. The 10 levels were equivalent to 10 worlds, so giving up on them would be too much of a pity. In the end, Zhao Fu made the decision to leave the half-celestial world and go to the heaven realm. Zhao Fu stood in the air of the heaven realm and carefully sensed his surroundings. There were no other spaces, and the space was quite stable. After confirming that the space in the heaven realm was quite stable, Zhao Fu returned to the mortal world and waved his hand. A wave of energy spread out as a violet door of light appeared, and Zhao Fu entered it and arrived in the half-celestial world. Zhao Fu placed a hand on the jade orb and sent a wave of energy into it. The jade orb gave off a massive wave of energy that spread throughout the entire cosmos' historical remnant. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out in the nearby 10 or so domains. Countless traces of violet light shot out, and a massive might covered the surroundings, causing everyone to feel a massive pressure. The 10 or so domains became peaceful again. Everyone was thinking about the cosmos' historical remnant and had never thought that it would give off such terrifying ripples. Countless people looked at the sky in shock, not understanding what was going on. Intense rumbling sounds came from the sky. The terrifying sounds made it seem as if the sky was trembling, and it gave off an incredibly small and powerless feeling. Some world realm experts immediately flew into the sky and closed their eyes to sense the air, wanting to know what was going on. However, they had never thought that they would see such an unbelievable scene. Chapter 2436. The massive cosmos historical remnant gave off boundless violet light and quickly shrank, giving off a massive aura. What's going on? Why is the cosmos historical remnant becoming smaller? The cosmos historical remnant had been here for countless years, and it had always been the most important historical remnant in this region. Now that something like this had happened, no one had expected it to happen, and they all had a bad feeling. Rumble. Massive explosions continuously sounded out as the cosmos historical remnant continuously shrank. The aura it gave off became more and more powerful, and the violet light became more and more intense. The countless people on the ground looked at the violet light in shock and did not say anything. In the end, the cosmos historical remnant became a 3-meter wide orb and floated in the sky, giving off a faint light and a powerful aura. The violet light in the sky had already dissipated, and it no longer gave off a powerful aura. However, the cosmos medallions in everyone's hands started to shatter. Everyone was sent into an uproar and cried out in panic. Why did the cosmos medallions shatter by themselves? What's going on? Can anyone explain? Could it be that we won't be able to enter the cosmos historical remnant in the future? They quickly found out about the cosmos historical remnant shrinking, and they all looked quite confused. They did not know why such a thing had happened to the cosmos historical remnant, and they wanted to ask those experts. Boom, boom, boom. At this time, those experts didn't have the time to care about them. They rushed into the void with their powerful auras. The cosmos historical remnant had become a 3-meter wide orb, and whoever obtained the 3-meter wide orb would obtain the cosmos historical remnant. Thinking about the countless treasures within the cosmos historical remnant, the experts' hearts sped up, and they were so excited that they could not speak. Right now, they only had a single thought, which was to obtain the cosmos historical remnant at all costs. Everyone seemed to have gone mad as they rushed into the sky. Figures gave off rays of light as they rushed into the sky from all directions. This scene was quite majestic and shocking. A big man, giving off terrifying power, rushed at the front. Looking at the people rushing over, he immediately roared, "The cosmos historical remnant belongs to my mountain demon sect. Don't blame me for being impolite to anyone who dares to steal it." A handsome-looking young man immediately said, "The cosmos historical remnant belongs to my East Bright dynasty. If you dare to steal something from my East Bright dynasty, you'll have to pay a massive price." A scholarly-looking middle-aged man said, "It's best if the cosmos historical remnant is controlled by our academy. That way, it will be more fair for everyone. Please trust our academy." The ugly woman cursed, "Screw off. The cosmos historical remnant belongs to whoever can obtain it. Also, do you think we're afraid of you?" Boom, boom, boom. Massive explosions sounded out. Some experts did not even have time to pay attention to them and gave off terrifying auras as they rushed towards the cosmos historical remnant. This time, the monster-level experts who had been in seclusion all year round also broke out of their seclusion and joined in the fight. No matter who it was, the cosmos historical remnant was incredibly important to them. It could allow a faction to rise up and become even more powerful. Boom! A white ray of light ran the fastest, instantly overtaking many people. It was a young girl riding a white horse, and the aura she gave off was very powerful. It seemed that she was not from the nearby domains. Seeing that the young woman was about to approach the cosmos historical remnant, everyone felt quite startled and wanted to stop her. Boom! A massive explosion suddenly sounded out as a peak Emperor Heaven realm might spread out. A black-clothed elder suddenly appeared near the cosmos historical remnant and coldly looked around as he said, "Anyone who takes another step die." The experts all stopped in fear, their expressions quite unsightly. Most of them were world realm experts and were not a match for an Emperor Heaven Realm expert. The difference in cultivation was simply too great, and it seemed that an Emperor Heaven Realm expert could easily kill them. The young girl riding the white horse also stopped and looked at the black-clothed elder seriously with her beautiful eyes. The black-clothed elder looked at the people who had stopped and gave a cold smile as he turned and prepared to fly towards the Cosmos Historical Remnant. Bang! A massive fist energy containing shocking power blasted towards the black-clothed elder, and a strange-looking man with messy hair appeared near the black-clothed elder and said, "This thing is mine." Boom! A massive aura suddenly descended as a tall and slim woman also gave off a massive might. She was also an Emperor Heaven Realm expert. After appearing, the woman did not say anything and directly rushed towards the Cosmos Historical Remnant. Following this, a few more experts descended and the two sides started to fight, giving off terrifying shockwaves. Seeing the experts fighting, the countless people who had stopped could not help but rush over, wanting to steal the Cosmos Historical Remnant. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the Cosmos Historical Remnant gave off boundless violet light and a massive aura. It turned into a violet ray of light and shot into the sky before disappearing. This sudden change caused the countless people who had madly wanted to steal the Cosmos Historical Remnant to stop. The Cosmos Historical Remnant disappeared just like that. Everyone did not want to believe it and immediately sensed their surroundings, but they could not sense any aura from the Cosmos Historical Remnant. The Cosmos Historical Remnant had truly disappeared from this region, causing countless people to feel incredibly dejected. Some people even started to cry. In the future, there would no longer be such a good historical remnant for them to explore, nor would they be able to obtain any treasures. The celebrations for the Cosmos Historical Remnant would also disappear. The ones who felt quite uncomfortable were the experts in the sky. They felt incredibly regretful. If they had been a bit faster, they might have been able to obtain the Cosmos Historical Remnant. However, now that the Cosmos Historical Remnant had flown away, there was no point in regretting. A few Emperor Heaven Realm experts coldly harumphed and looked at each other, blaming each other for not being able to obtain the Cosmos Historical Remnant. However, they did not do anything. Now that the Cosmos Historical Remnant had disappeared, they also turned into rays of light and disappeared. The experts in the sky disappointedly returned to the ground and did not continue to fight. No one understood what had happened, why the Cosmos Historical Remnant became smaller, and why it had disappeared. On the half-celestial world stage, a 3-meter-wide orb flew out from the stage and stopped in front of Zhao Fu. No one knew that all of this had been caused by Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu looked at the orb in front of him and gave a trace of smile. Just then, he had used the Cosmos Historical Remnant to find out that there were many people below who wanted to steal it. However, he had not taken it back and had instead stayed there to tease them. In actuality, even if they had stolen the orb, it would have been useless. The Cosmos Historical Remnant's control center was in the half-celestial world, and it would be impossible to control the Cosmos Historical Remnant. Chapter 2437. Zhao Fu took the 3-meter-wide orb and came to the Heaven Realm, right above the Pantheon Palace. The Earth Realm had the deepest region, where the 9 paths of reincarnation were located. The Earth Realm had originally been a part of the underworld, and it was still connected to the underworld. The deepest region of the underworld was the 6 paths of reincarnation. That was where the heaven-awakened world's spirits reincarnated, and countless souls would enter after death. The space there was most likely very big. As such, the Earth Realm had the deepest region. Even though the God World had the Haotian Mirror, it did not have a corresponding space, so the Heaven Realm did not have one either. Zhao Fu's plan was to fuse the Cosmos Historical Remnant's 10 levels into the Heaven Realm, making them the Heaven Realm's 10 levels. This would further perfect the 3 worlds. Right now, the 3 worlds were still evolving and needed Zhao Fu to continuously perfect them. Only then would the three worlds become powerful and stable. The Heaven Realm's 10 levels were placed above the Pantheon Palace, and in the future, people could directly enter the Heaven Realm's 10 levels through the Pantheon Palace. Zhao Fu stood in the air above the Pantheon Palace and stretched out a hand. He tossed the 3-meter-wide orb into the air, causing it to fly upwards. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the violet orb of light gave off a massive aura. It was like a massive flood as it flooded out, easily inundating everything in its surroundings. The countless residents and godly spirits in the Heaven Realm felt quite startled, and their bodies became cold as they looked up at the sky in terror. Countless traces of violet light shot out from the sky as the 3-meter-wide orb continuously became bigger and bigger. The terrifying aura it gave off became more and more powerful, and the atmosphere became more and more heavy, making it difficult for people to breathe. Many godly spirits came to the Pantheon Palace, wanting to know what was going on. Countless residents knelt on the ground and prayed devoutly. The orb became bigger and bigger, and from a distance, it looked like a transparent orb. There were 10 planes within it, one above the other. There were 10 levels in total, and the 10 worlds also became larger as the orb grew. The godly spirits who had hurried over looked at this scene in shock, feeling that it was simply too shocking. A few hours later, the Heaven Realm's 10 levels completely expanded and a massive shadow covered the Heaven Realm's ground, causing it to darken. From a distance, the Heaven Realm's 10 levels could be seen floating in the air, giving off a massive and majestic aura. Each layer was different. For example, the first layer was filled with trees that emitted a silvery white glow. The second layer was filled with grasslands that emitted countless rays of blue light. The third layer was a vast desert that emitted countless rays of yellow light. The top 3 floors were shrouded in darkness. It was unknown what was inside, but it felt very scary. The goddesses flew over to Zhao Fu's side and said shyly and curiously, "Your Majesty, what are you doing? Also, you left for so long. Why didn't you tell us when you came back? We all missed you." Zhao Fu looked at the goddesses and chuckled. "I still have something to do now. I'll tell you in detail after I'm done." The goddesses smiled and nodded. Zhao Fu then directly entered the half-celestial world. He had only set up the Heaven Realm's 10 levels. There were still many things he needed to take care of. After coming to the half-celestial world, Zhao Fu wanted to modify the Heaven Realm's 10 levels and make them places for godly spirits to live. The weakest godly spirits could only live in the 10th level. Those who were slightly stronger than the weakest godly spirits could live in the 9th level. Those who were slightly stronger than the weakest godly spirits could live in the 8th level, and so on and so forth. The top 3 levels were the 3 darkness domains, and Zhao Fu planned to change them to the 3 light domains. The Heaven Realm's attribute was yang, so the highest level of the Heaven Realm should be light, while the Earth Realm was yin, so it should be yin. In actuality, Zhao Fu had another plan, which was to turn the Heaven Realm's 10 levels into a trial ground for the Heaven Realm's residents. They would be able to obtain all sorts of treasures and increase their strength. However, after thinking about it, Zhao Fu felt that there was no need. After all, Zhao Fu would take out all of the treasures from the Cosmos historical remnant and use them to develop his faction. Qin was currently fighting everywhere and would suffer great losses, so there was no need for him to lose too much in the trial ground. Soon, Zhao Fu would bring celestial qi into the Heaven Realm. The Heaven Realm's 10 levels were places where celestial qi would pass through, and they would be affected by celestial qi. It was quite suitable for cultivating or growing spirit medicines and spirit items. Zhao Fu came to the stage and placed a hand on the jade orb. What Zhao Fu needed to do now was to change the top 3 levels' attributes. The top 3 levels had not originally been darkness attribute, but because the restrictions had been destroyed, they had fallen into darkness. Over the years, their attributes had gradually changed, and the creatures within had adapted to the darkness and turned into darkness attributes. It was not very difficult for Zhao Fu to turn darkness into light, as light and darkness were like yin and yang, and they could be changed and fused. Of course, the process was quite painful for the creatures, but Zhao Fu still had to do it. There was no other way. The top 3 levels of the heaven realm had to be light attributes. Boom! A wave of power entered the jade orb, causing it to give off a formless power. Within the 3 levels of darkness, countless blinding white lights shot out from the darkness. The darkness quickly retreated, and light covered the ground. Countless darkness creatures were exposed to the light, and the intense pain caused them to cry out miserably. Countless plants seemed to lack water, and they became dry and gave off traces of black aura. Even though the darkness creatures were in great pain, the light power flowed into their bodies, causing their darkness power to start to change. A small orb of light was first born within their bodies, and the orb of light became larger and larger, while their darkness power became smaller and smaller. In the end, they all turned into light creatures. The darkness leopard, which had been covered in black scales and looked ferocious, was now covered in white scales. It looked much gentler and was not as ferocious as before. An evil demon fox, which had been extremely ferocious, now had snow-white fur and gave off a faint white light, giving off an elegant and spirited feeling. The black-feathered strange bird flying in the sky also had white feathers, and it did not look as strange as before. It looked much better. The plants on the ground, which had originally had black leaves and branches, now had green leaves and returned to their normal color. The 3 darkness domains disappeared and were replaced by the 3 light domains. Countless traces of white light covered the 3 levels, and there was not a trace of darkness within. All of the ferocious animals and plants had greatly changed. They had become much more docile, and it was difficult to imagine that these had been the 3 darkness domains before. Zhao Fu's consciousness entered the 3 light domains and looked at the changes, and he smiled. Chapter 2438. Following this, Zhao Fu continued to change the other layers. For example, the desert and rocky areas were not suitable for living, so Zhao Fu created many oases in the desert and many forests and grasslands in the rocky areas. This took Zhao Fu a few days, and it was during these days that Zhao Fu ordered people to set up a massive magic formation in the half-celestial world. The massive magic formation covered almost the entire half-celestial world, and at the center of the magic formation was the courtyard where Ancestor Taishu had lived, as well as where the celestial peach tree was. The magic formation that was set up was not the 10 Abyss Earth Transmission Formation, but the Celestial Spirit Formation that Ancestor Taishu had given him. The 10 Abyss Earth Transmission Formation was most suitable for use in the lower realms and was not suitable for use in the upper realms, so Zhao Fu used the Celestial Spirit Formation that Ancestor Taishu had given him. The Celestial Spirit Formation was a magic formation that could absorb large amounts of celestial qi, and its grade was not low. After modifying the Heaven Realm's 10th level, Zhao Fu went to the center of the Celestial Spirit Formation. There were 8 orbs of light floating here, and each of them was 10 meters wide. They were spread out in 8 directions, and each of them gave off powerful auras. Zhao Fu raised a hand, and the 8 orbs of light gave off intense light. A massive magic formation containing immense power appeared from the ground, and the surrounding power quickly flowed into the magic formation. After the magic formation absorbed countless amounts of power, it gave off countless rays of light, and the aura it gave off became greater and greater. The 8 orbs of light around Zhao Fu gave off blinding light, making it difficult to see the surroundings as if they were covered by light. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as a massive color-changing light, bringing with it terrifying power, shot into the sky. It vigorously smashed into the sky, seeming to tear the sky apart as it formed a massive white pillar of light. The 8 orbs of light around Zhao Fu were at the center of the pillar of light and gave off immense power as they started to spin and give off a massive suction force. Boom! A massive explosion once again sounded out and a massive amount of celestial chi flowed down the massive pillar of light like water from the heavenly river, drowning everything within it. The sounds were extremely shocking. Celestial chi continuously poured down, and more of the half-celestial world's celestial chi flowed towards the first level like water from the sky. The celestial chi flowed through the first level, the second level, the third level. Finally, it landed on the heaven realm's ground, and countless strands of celestial chi spread out, causing the heaven realm to change. Countless plants quickly grew, as if they had a trace of celestial energy. Many creatures became more powerful than before, and they seemed more spirited. Some of the sick creatures were automatically healed, and their bodies felt quite comfortable. Sensing the changes in the heaven realm, Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile. The massive pillar of light started to dissipate, but the 8 orbs of light around Zhao Fu continued to spin, continuously sending out celestial chi from the celestial world into the half-celestial world. The half-celestial world's celestial chi flowed through the first level, the second level, the third level, and finally to the heaven realm's ground. This was the same as the earth realm. As the celestial chi flowed into the heaven realm would be affected by the celestial chi, and it would have even more power and laws. It could be said that the transformation of the 3 realms had sped up a lot. Moreover, Zhao Fu had already done most of the basic things. There was celestial chi from above, ruins of end energy from below, and Zhao Fu had even constructed his own reincarnation system. Now, he just had to wait for the transformation of the 3 realms to complete. After dealing with this matter, Zhao Fu relaxed in the Pantheon Palace and enjoyed the panting of the 5 goddesses, Qianhua Yuechan, the Earth Goddess, and her 7 daughters. The other goddesses happily joined in. Finally, Zhao Fu returned to Qin. Originally, in order to deal with the upcoming calamity, Zhao Fu had thought of a few things that he had to do first. The first was to fight in the alchemy world and obtain large amounts of points to exchange for Tao-seeking stones and forge the Chaos Cauldron. The second was to find the half-celestial world and draw in countless amounts of celestial chi to cause the heaven realm to transform. The third was to awaken the spirit race and water race's emperor stars. Zhao Fu decided to awaken the spirit race's emperor star first because he already had the yin-yang soul fire, the metal spirit's bone, the water spirit's blood, the fire spirit's heart, and the wood spirit's body. He only lacked the earth spirit. Only then would Zhao Fu have the yin-yang 5-element spirit body. With these conditions, awakening the spirit race's emperor star would be relatively simple. As for awakening the water race's emperor star, Zhao Fu had not found any clues yet, so he could only set it aside as the last emperor star to awaken. There was also the matter of the 6 desires demonic art. Zhao Fu had to go to the 6 Paths Immortal sect to solve the problem of his cultivation technique. This was another matter that required a lot of time. Zhao Fu gathered many of his ministers and told them about going to the spirit realm. Li Si said, "Your Majesty, you just came back a few days ago, and you have to go to the spirit realm. It will take at least a few months. Don't you want to rest for a few more days?" Beside him, Li Muqing also tried to persuade him. "Your Majesty, please don't tire yourself out and stay for a few more days. Please don't tire yourself out and stay here for a few more days. Great Qin's residents have not seen you in a long time. There have been many things in recent years, and they were not small matters." Zhao Fu needed to go to a few places, and it would take at least a few months. Before these things happened, Zhao Fu would often go to the Qin Empire, and the commoners would warmly welcome him. They would be able to see Zhao Fu, the supreme ruler of the Qin Empire, with their own eyes. Their relationship would become much closer, and it would strengthen the unity of the empire. However, Zhao Fu did not have the time now, so he naturally did not go to the Qin Empire. He also handed the imperial examinations to others, and he did not have time to deal with them himself. It had been a long time since Zhao Fu had personally seen the changes in the Qin Empire, and he had only heard about the Qin Empire through his subordinates' reports. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu decided to go to the spirit realm. These things had to be taken care of first, and the disaster could happen at any moment. He did not have time to waste on these things. Zhao Fu said, I know. Time is of the essence, so I have to take care of these things first. I'll deal with the other things later. Seeing that Zhao Fu had made his decision, the ministers did not try to persuade him otherwise and obediently stood there. Zhao Fu said seriously, "While I'm gone, everything in the Qin Empire will be the same as before. The various people will take care of the various matters in the Qin Empire. Also, pay attention to the matters in the Heaven Awakened world. Right now, the Heaven Awakened world Qin Empire is in a bit of danger, and the various factions could attack Qin at any moment. Qin should not be in a hurry to expand and focus on stability." "Yes, Your Majesty." The ministers respectfully bowed and replied in unison. Chapter 2439. A trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he said, "All right, you're all dismissed." After giving these orders, Zhao Fu planned to immediately head to the spirit domain to deal with the spirit race's Emperor Star and the Sixth Desire celestial art. At that moment, a massive world giving off a boundless aura slowly moved towards the Heaven Awakened world and collided with it. Boom! Suddenly, a shocking explosion sounded out throughout the entire Heaven Awakened world. The ground violently trembled as the sun and moon dimmed. Clouds swirled as spirit chi became chaotic, and it was as if a disaster had descended. Countless people looked terrified, not knowing what was happening. Sensing the terrifying aura, they felt immense terror within their hearts. The terrifying experts were not surprised at all, as if they had long since known that this would happen. Their expressions were quite serious. Zhao Fu felt the ground violently trembling in that terrifying aura, and he felt quite startled at first. However, he quickly understood what was happening. Before, that higher being from Emperor Path College had said that a great thousand world was moving towards the Heaven Awakened world. This was the ripples from that great thousand world colliding with the Heaven Awakened world. After a while, the intense ripples stopped, and system announcements quickly sounded out in Zhao Fu's mind. Everything was as Zhao Fu had expected. System announcement: the card battlefield has been opened. System announcement: the battlefield door has been opened. System announcement: factions with strength at the Marquis 8 level can enter the Alchemy Battlefield, Chaos Battlefield, or Card Battlefield through the battlefield door. System announcement: after entering the battlefield, you can obtain points by killing outer world creatures, which can be used to exchange for items. System announcement: the types of rewards have been updated. System announcement: the maximum level of rewards has been increased. System announcement: the number of rewards has been increased. System announcement: the spirit chi has decreased, region power has decreased, and world power has decreased. Fate has been greatly affected, and its stability has decreased. Increase: the godly world can also participate in battles through the battle door. System announcement: the underworld can also participate in battles through the battle door. System announcement: factions with strength at the Marquis 8 level can request resources from factions that have not reached the Marquis 8 level. This can be exchanged for points, and if they do not agree, their entire faction will be punished. Warning: every Marquis 8 level power must obtain a certain number of points every month. If they don't meet the requirements, they will be punished accordingly. If they fail to meet the requirements multiple times, they will be stripped of their country, and their entire royal family will suffer the backlash of the world's energy. Warning: infighting is prohibited in the battlefield. Those who violate this rule will be severely punished, and those who violate it will be killed. Warning: those who defect to the enemy and sell their realm will be punished by the heavens and suffer endless pain until their souls are destroyed. Not only their wives, children, and friends, but their entire families will suffer the same fate. Zhao Fu looked at the prompts. They were similar to the ones after the collision with the alchemy world, but the content was different. The first was the card world and the card battlefield. The previous one was called the alchemy world and the alchemy battlefield. Could it be that the one crashing into the Heaven Awakened world was a card world? Secondly, the type, quantity, and level of the reward items had all been greatly increased, which meant that they could exchange for more good things. Third, originally, only king-level forces were qualified to participate in the dimensional war. Then, with the appearance of the alchemy world, principal-level forces were required. Now it was one level lower. Vassal-level forces had to participate in the war. The lowest level of the kingdom was a barony kingdom, and a marquisate kingdom was only slightly stronger than a barony kingdom. Fourth, spirit chi power, region power, and world power had all decreased. This had happened last time, but it was even more severe this time. Their strength had greatly decreased, and the most important thing was their fate. Their fate had been greatly affected, and it was quite unstable. With unstable fate, there would be more unrest, and it would be easy for other factions with powerful fate to destroy them or devour them. This was not a good thing for all of the Heaven Awakened World factions. Fifth, Zhao Fu felt quite shocked that the underworld and godly world were both going to participate in the war. Before, no matter if it was the outer world or the alchemy world, the godly world or underworld did not have to participate. However, now that the godly world and underworld were going to participate, this meant that the Heaven Awakened World situation was quite unfavorable. They were going all out and not holding back at all. This was indeed the case. Before, dealing with the outer world had not been too difficult, but now that the alchemy world had appeared, the Heaven Awakened World situation was quite unfavorable, and they had been suppressed by the alchemy world. Now that there was a card world, it was 3 great thousand worlds attacking a Heaven Awakened world, making the situation even more unfavorable. Even though the underworld and godly world were not as big as the Heaven Awakened world, if they participated in the war, they would be able to reduce the pressure on the Heaven Awakened world. Sixth, the factions that participated in the war could ask for resources from the factions that did not participate in the war, which was quite good. After all, they would suffer great losses in the planar battlefield, while some smaller factions could hide in the Heaven Awakened world and would not be punished. The ones who would suffer losses would only be the larger factions. Now that he had this authority, Zhao Fu could ask for some benefits from the surrounding factions. This was an authority given by the Heaven Awakened world, and the smaller factions would not dare to resist. In fact, Zhao Fu felt that he could use this opportunity to suppress the smaller factions and devour them, making his own faction even stronger. However, this authority required points to exchange for, and Zhao Fu felt that it would be quite easy to exchange for points. After all, the smaller factions were already quite weak, and if they spent a lot of points and did not receive many benefits, who would be stupid enough to exchange for points? Finally, there were 3 warnings. Internal fighting was prohibited in the outer world battlefield, and they had to obtain a certain amount of points. There was also the severe punishment of traitors. These system announcements showed that the Heaven Awakened world was in a bad situation and was in danger of being conquered by the 3 great thousand worlds. If the Heaven Awakened world was destroyed, it would be a heavy blow to Qin, and Qin would have to leave the Heaven Awakened world and enter the Boundless Void. Zhao Fu had just returned from the Boundless Void, and there were all sorts of unknown dangers there that he could not defend against. Without the protection of a great thousand world like the Heaven Awakened world, Qin's situation would be quite difficult. However, this was a planar war, and Zhao Fu would not be able to do much, so he could only go with the flow. Zhao Fu's expression was quite serious. Now that such a big thing had happened, he naturally had to take care of this first. He could only change his plan to go to the spirit domain after dealing with this matter. The ministers who had just left sensed the abnormal auras and hurriedly returned to the hall. They understood that Zhao Fu would summon them to discuss this matter. Chapter 2440. Zhao Fu looked at the various ministers and said seriously, "There's been a change in plans, and we need to discuss Qin's future." The various ministers nodded seriously. Now that a 3rd card world was invading, the situation in the Heaven Awakened world would become even more difficult, and Qin needed to make preparations for the future. After spending half a day, Zhao Fu and the various ministers discussed Qin's future plans. Now, the outer world, godly world, underworld, and golden world would slow down their battles and focus on stable development. Now that the Heaven Awakened world was in such a dangerous period, Almost no faction wanted to start a war. If they expended too much energy in a war, if a crisis occurred, they would not be able to defend, and they were worried about the future. The second was to strengthen the Qin Empire's defenses and have Qin soldiers build all sorts of defensive structures. Now, Zhao Fu had a bad feeling. Even though he did not know what would happen in the future, strengthening the Qin Empire's defenses would not be a bad idea. The second was to increase the strength of the soldiers. Even though Qin had tens of billions of soldiers, there were only 17 billion or so Stage 2 soldiers and a few hundred million Stage 3 soldiers, while the rest were only Stage 1 soldiers. Their military strength was not even as strong as an inner-region royal kingdom. And now that the Heaven-awakened world was in such a dangerous period, their military strength felt quite weak. After discussing these matters, Zhao Fu had his subordinates carry them out. He planned to head to the card world to gather information while he gathered his army. The card world was a new Great Thousand world, and they did not have any information about it. If they wanted to fight with it, they had to gather information first, just like when the Golden World had invaded. Moreover, they had to fight in the card world. This was a requirement of the Heaven-awakened world, and Zhao Fu could not avoid it. This time, Zhao Fu went by himself and did not bring anyone else, nor did he make any preparations. After all, Zhao Fu was going to the spirit domain anyway, so he had already prepared everything. Following this, Zhao Fu went to the battle gates. There were 2 platforms here, 2 battle gates. One led to the Golden World, and the other to the card world. Zhao Fu was curious about this card world. What kind of world would it be? Why did it become a card world? With this in mind, Zhao Fu entered the war gate and felt as if he was being pulled by a massive force. His body swayed, and Zhao Fu arrived in the card world. Zhao Fu looked around and found that he was in a clearing in the forest. There were dense trees all around him and weeds that were more than a meter tall. It looked like a normal world. It was not like the chaotic world, where plants were very colorful and insects and beasts could be found anywhere. It was also not like the alchemy world, where everything was half metal and half life. Suddenly, Zhao Fu looked up and found that the sun in the sky was a bit special. It was not the same as an ordinary sun. The sun in the sky gave off intense light that shone in all directions. There seemed to be a gigantic golden book in the center, and there were a few light wheels around the sun. Those light wheels were also golden. Seeing this scene, Zhao Fu felt a little suspicious. What kind of sun is this? It was his first time in this world, so Zhao Fu naturally did not know much about it. As such, he did not pay much attention to it and flew to the side. The best way to obtain information was to find someone from the card world. If he asked that person, he would be able to get some general information about the card world. If there was anything that he did not understand, he would be able to get an answer. After flying for a while, a 10-meter-long strange bird with red scales and a crown on its head gave off a ferocious aura as it rushed at Zhao Fu. The strange bird was not very strong, only around Stage 4. Seeing it rush at him as if it was seeking death, Zhao Fu gave a cold smile and grabbed out with his hand. A formless energy flowed out, forming a massive hand that grabbed the strange bird's throat. The strange bird struggled in terror, but Zhao Fu did not show any mercy. He twisted his hand, and with a crack, the strange bird's neck was broken by Zhao Fu. Suddenly, the strange bird gave off motes of light, and 3 cards that were slightly bigger than poker cards floated out of the motes of light and floated in the air. One of the cards had a picture of a bird-shaped flame on the front, and there were words below it. There was also a magic formation on the back, giving off a formless aura. One of the cards had a few balls of blood and flesh on the front, and there were some words below it. There was also a magic formation on the back. One of the cards had a red-scaled skin on the front, and there were also some words below it. There was also a magic formation on the back. Apart from the drawing on the front and the words written on the back, the 3 cards were almost exactly the same. There was no difference at all. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and grabbed the 3 cards, and 3 lines of information entered his mind. Vermilion Bird Remnant Soul, Rarity, 4-star, Type, Material Card, Effect, can be used to create equipment. Vermilion Bird Meat, Rarity, 4-star, Type, food card, effect, can be used to create food. Vermilion bird skin, rarity, 4-star, type, material card, effect, can be used to create equipment. The creatures here would drop cards after being killed? Was that why this place was called the Card World? Zhao Fu felt quite unsure, and he looked at a herd of single-horned cows on the ground and flew over. A few pained cries sounded out as the herd of cows was completely killed. There were 13 of them in total, and after they died, they turned into motes of light and disappeared, and cards appeared within them. There were 20 or so cards, and they were split into two types. One had a picture of blood and flesh on it, and it was a food card called Unicorn Cow Horn. The other had a picture of a horn on it, and it was a material card called Unicorn Cow Horn. Zhao Fu was now sure that after killing creatures here, their corpses would disappear, but they would drop cards. This was why it was called the Card World, and Zhao Fu now understood. This world was quite interesting, and even though he had only obtained a bit of information, it had piqued Zhao Fu's curiosity. Zhao Fu wanted to obtain more information, so he continued to fly. A few hours later, he had wanted to find someone from the Card World to obtain information, but after searching for a while, he did not find anyone. At that moment, Zhao Fu felt quite tired, so he flew to a lake and prepared to rest for a while. Sitting beside a large tree, Zhao Fu took out a celestial fruit that was the size of a fist and started to eat it. This celestial fruit was a stage 7 fruit, and it contained immense power and some celestial qi. It was something that Zhao Fu had obtained in the boundless void. Zhao Fu had many of these things, and eating them was quite beneficial to Zhao Fu. As Zhao Fu ate the celestial fruit, he took out the card that he had just obtained and looked at it closely. Even though he could obtain information from a card, it seemed that because Zhao Fu was from the outside world, this card could not be used. Zhao Fu. Chapter 2441. Suddenly, a little squirrel with snow-white fur and a tuft of azure fur ran over to Zhao Fu's side and squatted there, looking at the celestial fruit in Zhao Fu's hand with its bright eyes. Zhao Fu looked down at the little thing and smiled as he took out a celestial fruit and gave it to the little squirrel. The little squirrel hugged the celestial fruit and happily started to eat it. Zhao Fu found that the little squirrel did not seem to be an ordinary creature. Its strength was at stage 5, and its bloodline was most likely not low. Clatter, clatter, clatter. The sound of galloping horses could be heard as a group of cavalrymen rushed out from the forest and stopped in front of Zhao Fu. They looked like Westerners, and there were 13 of them in total. They were all women, and the leader was a beautiful woman with golden hair and silver eyes. She was dressed in azure armor and rode on a white horse. The other 12 women were tall and slim and had valiant looks. They were all quite good-looking and wore silver armor and held a spear. They also rode on white horses and gave off powerful auras. They all had Saint Realm cultivation. Seeing that he could not find them, Zhao Fu could not help but smile. Now, he could understand more about the Card World. Who are you? Why aren't you kneeling after seeing our princess? A female cavalryman asked with a cold expression. They were most likely speaking in the Card World's language. Zhao Fu could not understand what they were saying, but he could understand what they were saying. Seeing the golden-haired woman, the little squirrel hugged the celestial fruit and ran towards her. It immediately jumped onto her shoulder and happily ate the celestial fruit. The golden-haired woman looked at the gluttonous little squirrel on her shoulder and smiled as she said in a pleasant voice, "Forget it. There's no need to bicker. Let's go." Hearing this, the female cavalryman nodded and did not say anything else, and the group prepared to leave. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "I don't think I told you to leave." Hearing this voice, the golden-haired woman stopped and turned to look at Zhao Fu. She frowned and looked somewhat displeased. At this moment, Zhao Fu had already used the language stone to translate his words into the language of the Card World, so they could understand him. The female cavalryman said coldly, "You already know our princess' esteemed status, yet you still dare to speak to her in such a manner? Do you really think our princess is magnanimous and won't kill you?" Zhao Fu said with a contemptuous smile, You can come and give it a try. The female cavalryman looked furious, and just as she was about to charge at Zhao Fu, the golden-haired woman stretched out a hand to stop her and said seriously, "He might be very powerful and not as ordinary as he looks." Hearing the golden-haired woman's words, the female cavalrymen were shocked, and their expressions became stern. The golden-haired woman looked at Zhao Fu with her beautiful eyes and asked seriously, "Just who are you?" Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "Come over, and I'll tell you." The golden-haired woman was evidently not that stupid, but she was not sure how powerful Zhao Fu was. She was worried that Zhao Fu would be in danger, so she said coldly, "What do you want to do? This is Lock Kingdom's territory." Zhao Fu smiled as he walked over and said condescendingly, "What do you think I want to do?" Seeing Zhao Fu walk over, everyone instinctively felt a sense of danger. However, since he was walking over to the historical remnant, they could not just stand there and wait for Zhao Fu to hurt them. As such, they gave off powerful auras and raised their spears as they rushed at Zhao Fu, attacking Zhao Fu. Seeing them rush over, Zhao Fu's smile became even wider. He sent a wave of power into his left eye, causing the golden pupil in his left eye to start to spin. Clang, clang, clang. The sounds of chains could be heard as black chains shot out from the ground, quickly shooting towards the women. The women felt quite startled and released energy barriers, wanting to block the countless chains. However, the chains contained terrifying power and easily pierced through the energy barriers, binding up the women and their horses. They vigorously struggled, but they could not break free at all. The little squirrel was also bound up by a chain and was wrapped up like a dumpling, crying out in fear. Now, they all felt terror. The person in front of them was incredibly terrifying, and they were not a match for him at all. Zhao Fu looked at them being bound by the chains and smiled as he waved his hand, causing the chains to bind up their bodies and drag them in front of Zhao Fu, causing them to fall to the ground. The golden-haired woman's expression was quite unsightly as she looked at Zhao Fu with her beautiful eyes and warned, "You're very powerful, but don't think that the Kingdom of Rock is easy to bully. If you dare to harm me, the Kingdom of Rock will make you pay." However, Zhao Fu did not look afraid at all, and he smiled as he lifted the golden-haired woman's chin. The golden-haired woman turned her head in disgust and tried to break free from Zhao Fu's hand. However, Zhao Fu lowered his head and kissed the golden-haired woman's lips. Countless traces of six desires' demonic chi flowed into her mouth, and the golden-haired woman's willpower was quite resolute as she resisted Zhao Fu. The other female cavalryman furiously cursed at Zhao Fu. "Bastard, scum, beast! Don't violate their princess. If you have any problems, come at them." Zhao Fu naturally did not have time to pay attention to them. He stretched his hand into the golden-haired woman's armor and started to do something indescribable. The golden-haired woman's willpower directly collapsed, and she intensely responded to Zhao Fu. Following this, the two of them started to intensely do it, and the female cavalrymen's faces became red. They had never thought that their princess would become so lewd. She was doing such a thing with a man in front of them and still looked so happy. Soon, the golden-haired woman collapsed into Zhao Fu's embrace, and the other female cavalrymen quickly experienced the pleasure of their princess. They all started to do something indescribable with Zhao Fu and let out different moans. The golden-haired woman quickly recovered her strength and rode on Zhao Fu's body. The female cavalrymen surrounded Zhao Fu, creating a shocking scene. These female cavalrymen were quite lewd, and they madly rode on Zhao Fu's body. However, they were not a match for Zhao Fu, and in the end, it was Zhao Fu who rode on them and enjoyed their taste. Half a day later, the sun was about to set. The golden sunlight fell on the surface of the lake, and the surface of the lake sparkled. The ground was covered with armor and clothes, and many women were leaning against Zhao Fu. Their faces were flushed, and they were powerless. Zhao Fu looked at the blonde woman in his arms and said with a smile, "I want to know everything about the card world. Tell me everything you know." The golden-haired woman immediately came to her senses and asked in shock, "You're from the Heaven Awakened world?" Now that they knew that the planar war had started between the card world and Heaven Awakened world, hearing that Zhao Fu wanted to ask about the card world, they understood that Zhao Fu was from the Heaven Awakened world. After all, only people from the Heaven Awakened world wanted to know about the card world. Chapter 2442. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. That's right, I'm someone from the Heaven Awakened world. I came here to collect information about the card world. I didn't find many people, but 10 or so of you delivered yourselves to me. The golden-haired woman lightly harumphed. When the planar war started, we came to check on the situation in our territory. We never thought that we would meet you, and now you violated us. Our bodies are no longer clean. What do you think you should do to us? Lying on the other side of Zhao Fu was the female cavalryman who had spoken to Zhao Fu before. Her face was red as she said, "You don't have to worry about us, but you have to give our princess an explanation." Zhao Fu gave a domineering smile as he said, "Since I've taken you, you're all my women now." The golden-haired woman gave a trace of a happy smile. Women in the card world valued their chastity greatly, and if they did not even have their first time, it would be very difficult for them to get married. Now that she had been taken by Zhao Fu, she did not know why, but she wanted to stay with Zhao Fu. She had enjoyed the pleasure from just then, and it was as if there was a formless magic around Zhao Fu's body. The female cavalryman first smiled before saying worriedly, "But you're someone from the Heaven Awakened world, and you and our princess are from different worlds. It'll be very difficult for you to be together." Zhao Fu said, "Since you're my women, you naturally belong to the Heaven Awakened world. Moreover, my Qin State's army will soon invade, so I'm here to collect information." The golden-haired woman looked quite confused as she asked, "Your army? Just who are you?" Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "I'm the ruler of a kingdom." The women all looked quite shocked. "What? You're the ruler of a kingdom? As a king, how dare you come here to collect information? Aren't you afraid of danger?" Zhao Fu smiled as he replied, "You don't have to worry about me." Thinking about how powerful Zhao Fu was, the women felt that there was nothing to worry about, but their expressions became quite unsightly. Qin State's army was right next to the Kingdom of Lok, and Qin State would definitely attack the Kingdom of Lok. The Kingdom of Lok was their family and friends, and it was something that they were extremely loyal to. The golden-haired woman looked quite worried as she said, "How are you going to deal with the Kingdom of Lok? I don't want you to start a war with the Kingdom of Lok." Zhao Fu thought for a moment before replying, "Do you think it's possible for people from two different worlds to get along with each other during time of war? Qin State will not worry about Qin. Even if we could get along well, your Rock Nation will be regarded as traitors." Hearing this, the women fell into silence, unsure of what to do next. The golden-haired woman looked at Qin State and said, "Qin State, and Qin State, and Kingdom State. As Qin State's Fu's." The golden-haired woman rolled her eyes at Zhao Fu. "Is Great Qin really that powerful? This is the card world, and it's impossible for you to take over such a large area." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "All right, it's time to tell me about the card world. As for whether I can do it or not, you'll find out in the future." The golden-haired woman nodded and started to tell Zhao Fu about the card world. The first was their names. The golden-haired woman was called Hillary, and the female cavalrymen who had spoken to Zhao Fu were Melissa, Annie, Meredith, Alice, Aviva, and Christina. Next was the Kingdom of Lok, which was a Marquisate state. It was only 10% the size of a world, and, compared to ordinary factions, it was quite powerful. However, to Qin State, it was quite weak. This was no longer the outer domain, but the central domain of the card world. Now that Qin State had risen to a royal kingdom, it had been sent to the central domain of the card world by the War Gate. This was not surprising, as most of its soldiers were Stage 2 soldiers, and Qin State was at a slight disadvantage. Finally, there was the card world as a whole. The card world was a world with kingdoms, but it was different from the Heaven Awakened world. The card world implemented a system of enfeoffment. A king could enfeoff his territory to several great lords, and the great lords could enfeoff their territory to the lesser lords. The lesser lords could also give their land to the knights. This was like a pyramid, with the king at the top, followed by the great lords, the lesser lords, and finally the knights. In the card world, knights were the lowest lords, but they were still lords, and their statuses were much more prestigious than knights in other worlds. However, becoming a knight was not so easy. It required a long period of training, and ordinary people could not become knights. Only those who were more powerful and outstanding than ordinary people could become knights. Finally, if one wanted to become a knight, one had to be acknowledged by the Knight Association to become a true knight. Becoming a knight did not mean that one would have everything. It was still about honor and status. If one wanted to obtain territory and wealth, one also had to choose a lord to be loyal to. If one performed well, the lord would definitely give their territory to the knight. This was the tradition of the card world, and it had its own rules. Almost all kingdoms were like this, and there were very few exceptions. A king had the highest authority, and all lords had to pay taxes and give resources to him. He also had the power to gather lords to do battle, and he could revoke any lord's position within his territory. It was not just the king. Other great lords and lesser lords also had the power to revoke the positions of the lords under them. Many factions that had their lords removed would be cursed, and their power and fate would be greatly reduced. What's more, this would last for a very long time. As such, under normal circumstances, no lord of a lower rank would dare to offend a lord of a higher rank, unless the lord of a higher rank had declined and the next lord was more powerful. Zhao Fu did not like this kind of enfeoffment system, as there were many drawbacks to dividing power step by step. One had to pay attention to the possibility of lords rebelling at any time. Qin implemented a centralized system, and he held all of the power in the kingdom in his hands. He did not have to worry about lords, as there would not be any other lords. It was not just lords. Zhao Fu did not make anyone a king either. Even Bai Qi and Li Si, who were the people that Zhao Fu trusted the most, could give Qin City to manage. However, Zhao Fu would at most make them lords and would not make them kings. After all, if there were kings, a portion of fate would be lost, and the lord's power would be reduced. Everyone's loyalty would also be reduced, and there would be many other effects. In the future, even if Zhao Fu had children, he would only have one emperor, and no one else could be called a king. Chapter 2443. After understanding the system of the card world, Zhao Fu was very curious about matters related to the card world. Hilary explained to Zhao Fu seriously. In the card world, apart from the card race, anything could be turned into a card, such as trees, rocks, flowers, plants, beasts, water, even some intelligent races apart from the card race, such as giants, deer-horn people, blood warriors, python men, and half-lizardmen, could be turned into cards. Turning all sorts of objects into cards was a talent unique to the card race. Other races didn't have this ability. Turning things into cards also had a power limit. The stronger a person was, the stronger the card they could turn into. Very weak people could only turn into small stones or bugs. Also, turning inanimate objects into cards required less power than turning into living things. There were also 3 types of card turns. The first type was autonomous card turn. For example, beasts, races, and all creatures that could be turned into cards had the ability to do so, which was to turn themselves into cards. In this case, most creatures would voluntarily pledge loyalty to someone and turn themselves into cards. As long as one held a card, they could summon it at any time. For example, if a person took a giant card, they could unlock it anywhere, and a giant would appear there. Of course, unlocking the card would consume a lot of power, and weaklings wouldn't be able to summon creatures that were too powerful. The second type was the most commonly used card turn, which was to turn others into cards. The card race could turn everything in the world into cards. Not only flowers, plants, but also food, houses, and buildings could be turned into cards. The last type was force card turn. This situation mainly occurred when something was forcibly turned into a card. Although a card had the ability to turn everything in the world into cards, all sorts of things had the ability to turn themselves into cards and also had the ability to resist being turned into cards. If a person wanted to turn a beast into a card, if the beast wasn't willing, it would do its best to resist the card turn. That person had to be stronger than the beast in order to turn it into a card. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible to turn it into a card. Moreover, this was a creature that was forcibly turned into a card. Even after being turned into a card, it would emit power to struggle. Once the power binding it disappeared, the creature would break out of the card and reappear. After some powerful creatures or things were turned into cards, their enormous power could even seep out of the card and cause great consequences. Hillary said that there was once a family that turned an extremely terrifying demon into a card, but the demon that turned into a card emitted an extremely evil power that corroded the people of that family. In the end, that family turned into a half-human, half-demon monster. In such a situation, there would be things specifically sealed, suppressed, and imprisoned to prevent such a thing from happening. After explaining the 3 types of card transformation, it was time for the most important thing in the card world, the card heart. The card core was usually a square, about the size of an egg. Its main purpose was to store cards. The card core was the most basic noble artifact. As long as it was integrated into one's body, one would be able to take out any card with just a thought. There was no need to search through it, and it was extremely fast. The lowest grade card core was the white card core, which could store a dozen cards at most. The highest grade card core was the rainbow card core, which could store an unlimited number of cards. Furthermore, the card core itself was very powerful. What surprised Zhao Fu was the various types of cards. Apart from material cards, food cards, creature cards, and item cards, there were also skill cards. There were 2 types of skill cards. The first type was a skill card that could be learned. For example, a fireball skill card that could be learned could be used to learn the fireball skill. The second type of skill card was to turn a skill that had been cast into a card. For example, if you released a fireball, you could turn the released fireball skill into a card, and you could release it again at any time. Even if you didn't know that skill, you could rely on that card to cast that skill many times. However, creating such a skill card wasn't an easy task. It required a lot of card-making skills, and there were specialized card apprentices in the card world. Finally, Zhao Fu was curious about the sun, which Hillary explained clearly. The current sun was called the Card Book. God Sunday legend had it that there was a card book there, which contained all the cards in the card world. There were all kinds of cards, and it itself had the great power to create a world. The card book God's Son was the most respected thing in the card world, and no one dared to offend or insult it. Many people had built many book temples to worship it. At night, the card book God's Son would become the card book God Moon, which meant that the sun and the moon were the same thing. It wasn't like other worlds, where the sun was the sun and the moon was the moon. That was the general information about the card world, and it was impossible to explain all of it in detail. Zhao Fu gave a trace of smile and said, "Give me some of your blood." Hillary asked in confusion, "What do you want my blood for?" Zhao Fu smiled and said, "You'll know soon." Hillary nodded and took out a small knife and cut her palm. Blood continuously flowed out of the wound, and under her control, it condensed into a small blood-red orb before handing it to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu took the orb of blood and used the 8 forbidden blood technique to absorb it into his body. After the blood entered his body, it turned into countless thin blood-red lines that spread out, and a type of innate power spread throughout his body. Looking at the large tree in front of him, Zhao Fu grinned and stretched out a hand as he said, "Card form." A wave of energy flowed out from his hand and covered the large tree in front of him. The large tree gave off boundless light before quickly becoming smaller and smaller. The light continuously condensed and turned into a card that floated in the air. The women all looked quite shocked. They had never thought that someone from the Heaven Awakened world like Zhao Fu would have the ability to turn cards into cards. Hillary said, "How can you turn cards into cards?" Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "Right now, I'm only using a forbidden technique that relies on your blood to temporarily obtain the ability to turn into cards. After a while, this ability will disappear." By now, Hillary understood why Zhao Fu had asked for her blood, and she hugged Zhao Fu as she asked, "What do you plan to do now?" Zhao Fu started to think. Now that he had obtained some information about the card world, apart from the special ability to turn cards into cards, its strength was about the same as the Heaven Awakened worlds, and it was not as dangerous as the Alchemy world. The Alchemy world's Saint Beasts were too terrifying, and there were all sorts of alchemy techniques suppressing the Heaven Awakened world, making it quite disadvantageous for the Heaven Awakened world. Of the Outer World, Alchemy world, and Card world, the Alchemy world was the most dangerous. It was impossible to determine which world was the weakest, as they had not fought with the Card world yet. Chapter 2444. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu smiled. After that, my army will enter the Card world and build a defensive base. Hillary asked worriedly, "What about the Kingdom of Rock?" Zhao Fu looked at him and smiled as he said, "Tell me about the Lock Kingdom situation." Hillary nodded and began to tell Zhao Fu about the Kingdom of Rock. The King of Rock Country was getting old and wanted to abdicate. Now, there were 3 successors. The first was Hillary's eldest brother, who was the strongest and very ambitious. The second was Hillary's second brother, who was ranked second in terms of strength. He was very vicious, and ordinary people did not dare to offend him, or else they would die miserably. The third was Hillary's third brother. He was the weakest, but he was a good person and was gentle to others. However, others thought that it was unlikely for him to become king, so there were very few people who supported him. Although Hillary was the most distinguished princess of Rock Country and was loved by many people, she did not have the right to inherit and could not become a king. Originally, Hillary was going to be a tool for the alliance between the Rock Nation and the Thunder Nation. She was going to marry the future crown prince of the Thunder Nation. Because of this, Hillary was angry, so she came to this remote place. Finally, something like this happened. Zhao Fu hugged Hillary and smiled as he said, "Do you want to be the king of Rock Country? I can help you become the king of Rock Country." Hillary said with a happy smile, "Actually, I don't have much interest in being a king, but I don't want to marry the prince of the Thunder Kingdom." Zhao Fu chuckled and said, "Are you willing to marry me?" Hillary snorted, "I don't want to either. You haven't even pursued me properly. It will be too easy for you to marry me like this." Zhao Fu said with a smile, "But you're already my woman. There's nothing I can do if you don't want to." Hillary rolled her eyes at Zhao Fu. "You're shameless and overbearing." Melissa, the female cavalryman who had spoken to Zhao Fu before, lay on Zhao Fu's other side as she said in a serious tone, "Your Highness, I think you're the most suitable person to be the king of Lock Country. In the future, under your leadership, Lock Country will definitely move towards glory." The other female cavalryman also said earnestly, "Your Highness, we all believe that as a king, you can lead Lock to glory." Hearing this, Hillary hesitated. Melissa continued to persuade. "Qin is a kingdom-level power, and Rock Country is definitely unable to resist. Princess, you are now the woman of King Qin. If you become a kingdom, Qin will not harm Rock Country, but will instead help Rock Country. I hope you can think for the whole of Rock Country, think for your father, and think for your relatives. You are the most suitable person to be king now." Zhao Fu smiled and said, "That's right. I think that you're also the most suitable person to become the king of Rock. If you control the Kingdom of Rock, I will trust the Kingdom of Rock even more and will definitely provide you with various benefits." Hillary thought for a while and nodded seriously. "All right, then I am willing to become King Lock." Happy smiles appeared on the faces of all of the female cavalrymen. Nothing could make them happier than seeing the man they were loyal to and trusted become a king with the greatest power and status. Zhao Fu laughed and said, "Now, get up and put on your clothes." Only then did the female cavalrymen react. They were all naked and lying on the ground, surrounded by a man. This was different from the knight's spirit that they believed in. Their faces all turned red as they quickly got up and put on their clothes. Soon, they put on their clothes and armor, looking valiant and formidable. However, their faces were still flushed and they looked quite seductive. By now, Zhao Fu had also put on his clothes and waved his hand to untie the horses. After the little squirrel was untied, it immediately leapt into Hilary's embrace. It had been extremely afraid just then. It was also very worried about its owner. Just then, that person had done something intense with its owner in front of it, and it wondered if its owner had been hurt. Hilary smiled as she stroked its little head. The little squirrel looked at its owner and saw that she did not want to be hurt. Instead, she looked very happy and was no longer worried. Seeing that Hilary was playing with the little squirrel, Zhao Fu said, "Hilary, take me to the Lock Kingdom's palace." Hilary turned to look at Zhao Fu and asked, "You're planning to do this? Do you already have a way for me to become king?" Zhao Fu nodded and said, "My idea is very simple, which is to control your imperial father and your 3 big brothers. That way, you'll naturally become king." Hilary said in surprise, "It's that simple? Do you have that much power? My father already has divine realm cultivation, and my 3 big brothers have world realm cultivation. If I become king just like that, others will definitely not be convinced." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "I'm already at the Emperor Heaven Realm, and ordinary Emperor Heaven Realm experts are not a match for me. Only Void Realm experts can stop me. Moreover, I have something to control people, so you just have to trust me. As for others who are not convinced, after Qin's army enters the card world, I'll help you deal with that. If anyone is not convinced, just kill them." The women all looked shocked as they said, "You're already an Emperor Heaven Realm expert? How do you have such great power?" Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "My identity is not as simple as you think. You'll know after you join Qin's army." The women all looked curious and nodded, looking forward to knowing who Zhao Fu was. Following this, the women all got on their horses, and Zhao Fu sat on Hilary's horse and hugged her with both arms. Hilary leaned against Zhao Fu's chest, her face slightly red, and she gave a happy smile. The little squirrel in her arms looked at this scene in confusion. Why did these 2 people, who had been enemies before, suddenly seem like lovers? After walking for a while, Zhao Fu and his group came to a city. Because Hilary was a princess, Zhao Fu did not hug her and instead walked on the road. A man walking with them would attract too much attention, and this was not good. Zhao Fu was someone from the Heaven Awakened world, and if his identity was exposed, the plan might fail. Zhao Fu followed them all the way to the royal palace of Kilo. Seeing the angry princess return to the royal palace, the guards happily reported this to the king. After hearing about this, the king let out a sigh of relief. Since she was willing to come back, she most likely had changed her mind and was willing to marry the crown prince of the Thunder Kingdom. She would be the queen of the Thunder Kingdom in the future, which would bring many benefits to the Kilo Kingdom. Even if she died in the future, the alliance between the Kilo Kingdom and the Thunder Kingdom would not change. With the Thunder Kingdom's help, no one would dare to bully the Kilo Kingdom. Chapter 2445. The king was a short and chubby elderly man, and he said, "Call the princess over. I have something to say to her." The guard obeyed and immediately went to inform Hilary. After hearing about this, Zhao Fu, who was hiding in the void, sent Hilary to see the old king. After coming to the palace hall, Hilary looked at her father and coldly bowed as she called out, "Royal father." Seeing Hilary's expression, the old king chuckled as he said, "What is it? Are you still angry at royal father?" Hilary nodded. The old king smiled as he explained, "You're the princess of Lock Kingdom, so you should know that Lock Kingdom situation is not good. Now that the Heaven Awakened world and the Card world have started a planar war, the situation is even worse for Lock Kingdom. Lock Kingdom needs a powerful ally. The Thunder Kingdom is a bit more powerful than our Lock Kingdom, and the person you're going to marry is the future crown prince of the Thunder Kingdom. He's a very good person, and you'll be the princess of the Thunder Kingdom in the future." Hearing this, Hilary said angrily, "Royal father, I'd rather not have any riches than marry someone I don't know." The old king felt quite angry and thought that Hilary had thought things through, but he had never thought that she would still be like this. He said angrily, "I'm your royal father, So you have to marry whoever I tell you to. This is not just for you, but also for Lock Kingdom. Looking at her angry father, Hillary felt quite wronged, and her eyes became moist. Ha! A chuckle rang out, and a man appeared in the hall like a ghost. An invisible barrier instantly spread out, enveloping the entire hall. The old king felt quite startled and asked, "Who are you?" Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "I'm your daughter's man and your son-in-law. I should call you father-in-law." The old king looked quite confused and looked at Hillary. Why had she brought back a man after going out for half a month? He asked, "What's going on?" Hillary looked at her father and said, "He's indeed my man, and I've decided to marry him and gave my body to him." What? Hearing this, the emperor, who had been quite angry, exploded out with a terrifying aura. Hillary looked at her father in fear and lowered her head, not daring to say anything. Zhao Fu went up and hugged Hillary without any fear as he said, "Leave the rest to me." Hillary's eyes were red as she said, "Then try not to harm my father." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded before walking towards the old king. Hillary looked at the man and said with a smile, "Hillary, Zhao Fu, and Hillary. Hillary, king man, Hillary, king, princess, king, son, comma, king, comma, Hillary, comma, king, comma, Ali, comma, boom. Fu, king, the king, and said, the king, comma, king fu, king and comma, to comma, said comma. Zhao Fu did not move, and as those people rushed up, countless pale white tendrils grew out of Zhao Fu's body and quickly shot towards the people around him. The old king felt quite startled and hurriedly retreated. He felt that he was not a match for Zhao Fu, and he needed to break through the barrier so that others could kill this man. Seeing that the king wanted to run, Zhao Fu gave a cold smile, and the tendrils covered the other guards before stretching out a hand. That hand turned into countless tendrils that stretched out and covered the old king. The old king started to struggle and panic and gave off powerful power, but he was unable to break free. Massive amounts of evil demon energy continuously flowed into his body. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a massive wave of power exploded out of his body. It was the power of his nation armament. The nation armament gave off massive amounts of power, defending against the countless amounts of evil demon energy. It was quite effective and was able to defend against a lot of evil demon energy. At that moment, Zhao Fu took out an orb of blood, which flew into the air and fused into the barrier. The barrier became blood red and gave off a formless energy. The orb of blood was Hillary's blood, and it was used to cut off the connection between the king and the nation armament. Only someone with a direct royal bloodline could do this. Without the nation armament's power to defend, the massive amounts of evil demon energy flowed into the old king's body and took control. Zhao Fu put away the tendrils, and the guards and the old king expressionlessly stood there like puppets. Hillary looked at her father worriedly and said to Zhao Fu, "You really didn't harm my father, right?" Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "Don't worry, I'll definitely do what I promised you. Now that your father is under my control, I'll return him to normal." Following this, Zhao Fu released the power that had trapped the old king's consciousness, and the old king returned to normal. He looked at the man in front of him with an unsightly expression and asked, "Who are you?" Zhao Fu smiled as he explained, "I'm someone from the heaven-awakened world." Hearing this, the old king felt a chill in his heart. He had never thought that Zhao Fu was someone from the heaven-awakened world, and their world were currently at war. Zhao Fu continued to say, "Now that your daughter has become mine, if I want your daughter to become the king of Lok, it won't matter whether you agree or not. After all, I control your body and can do anything." The old king looked at Zhao Fu with an unsightly expression and said, "What's your goal?" "It's not just for my daughter to become the king of Lok." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. "That's right. In the future, your Lok kingdom will belong to me, Qin." The old king was greatly shocked. Wasn't this tantamount to submitting to another world's faction? He could not accept this at all. At the same time, he felt incredibly furious and cursed at Hillary. "You unfilial daughter, You actually did such a thing. How'd I give birth to a daughter like you? Hilary felt incredibly guilty and started to sob. Zhao Fu controlled the old king again and turned to hug Hilary as he comforted her, saying, "This is the best way to deal with this. If Qin attacks, your low kingdom will suffer countless casualties." Hearing this, Hilary felt a bit better and hugged Zhao Fu as she asked, "What should we do next?" Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "You can leave for now. Just leave the rest to me." Hilary nodded her head and left. Zhao Fu then controlled the king and had the three princes come to the palace. They were able to easily control them, and he had begun to control the Low Kingdom. P. Chapter 2446. Now that Zhao Fu controlled the four most important people in Ra country, the next step was to deal with the lords. Because it was a feudal system, it was unknown how many lords there were. The number of lords with titles numbered in the tens of thousands. Among these lords, there was no need to care about the lesser lords. What Zhao Fu cared about were the lords with heavy military power. Some of them supported the three princes, while others remained neutral and waited for things to change. Zhao Fu wondered if he could gather them together and control them all. This way, Zhao Fu could easily control Ra country without using Qin's military power. This would reduce unnecessary casualties, and he could hide and continue to understand this card world. After making a decision, Zhao Fu controlled the old king to summon all the lords. However, the results surprised Zhao Fu. Many lords couldn't come to the kingdom because they had something to do. Zhao Fu wondered if something had been exposed. Zhao Fu remembered that the old king had said that Rock country was in a bad situation. It should be because the royal family was weak and couldn't suppress these lords. That was why they didn't dare to come. If it was a normal country, the king would order many lords to come. Otherwise, they would be abolished. No lord dared to not come. This was the authority of the king. The old king originally wanted to marry his daughter to the Thunder Country and use the power of the Thunder Country to suppress and weaken the lords. However, Zhao Fu ruined his plan, which was why he was so angry. This was the disadvantage of the feudal system. Zhao Fu wondered why they didn't build a centralized country so that they didn't have to worry about the danger of the lords. However, why did most people choose the feudal system? Zhao Fu thought about it. This was related to the thinking of the people in the Cocker clan world. They had to get territory to be loyal to someone. It was also related to the rules of the Cocker clan world. Without controlling these greater rulers, Zhao Fu did not dare to proclaim Hilary as queen, or else these people might use this opportunity to rebel. Now, it was clear from their attitude. The king summoned them, but they didn't come. Did they think that the old king wouldn't dare to do anything to them because they had more people? This was indeed the case. If the king didn't dare to abolish a large number of nobles, these nobles would definitely refuse to accept it and rebel. If there were too many nobles, the kingdom would be in danger of being destroyed. Zhao Fu thought for a moment and decided to control the few lords who were willing to come. Then, he ordered his men to gather the kingdom's soldiers. The faces of the lords of Rock country changed when they heard the news. They originally thought that the old king had suddenly summoned them because of a major change. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for the king to summon all the lords. But when they asked around, nothing had happened. What was the purpose of the king summoning them? Everyone was very suspicious, and after knowing that a few lords with large armies wouldn't go, they didn't go. Now that they heard that the king's army was gathering, they were even more surprised. The old king felt like he wanted to attack them. Naturally, they wouldn't just stand there and wait to be beaten. They quickly gathered their troops and prepared to defend against the kingdom's army. These were the thoughts of some of the greater lords. They had enough strength, so they were quite confident. However, some of the lesser lords were quite terrified because they did not have the strength to defend against the kingdom's army. The kingdom's army was a kingdom's most elite army, and it was much more powerful than their local armies. Seeing everyone's reactions, Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile, and he planned to pick out some soldiers to act as guards. He didn't have any intention of attacking those lords. After all, they were much more powerful than the king's army, and they would be at a disadvantage. Since they didn't dare to come, Zhao Fu planned to go over. He would use touring the territory as an excuse and only bring 3,000 soldiers as guards. They wouldn't be afraid anymore. After hearing this, the various lords let out a sigh of relief. They didn't want the Kingdom of Rock to fall into chaos, as it wouldn't be beneficial to them. Their combined strength was more powerful than the kingdom's army, but they were divided into different lords, and there were conflicts and grievances between them. If the Kingdom of Rock fell into chaos, they wouldn't be able to unite, and they would split. The surrounding kingdoms wouldn't give up on this opportunity, and they would definitely take this opportunity to devour the Kingdom of Rock. When that time came, they would have nothing. Zhao Fu first brought his people to the most powerful lord, the Pharaoh family. The Pharaoh family's ancestor was one of the founding fathers of the Kingdom of Rock and had obtained a very large territory. After hundreds of years of development, they had become the most powerful lord in the Kingdom of Rock and the most threatening faction. The royal army gave off a powerful and dignified aura as they arrived at the Pharaoh family's territory. At that moment, the leader of the Pharaoh family was waiting in front of the castle with his people. His attitude was quite ordinary and didn't seem very respectful at all. It was as if he was waiting for the old king on equal footing. The leader was a dignified-looking middle-aged man. He stood there ramrod straight and looked quite ambitious. There were 3 beautiful women standing next to him. One was incredibly beautiful and had long, crimson hair. She wore a red dress. One had a mature figure and gave off a virtuous aura. She wore a dark blue dress, and one wore a white dress and gave off a gentle and quiet aura. There were also 5 or 6 young men and women standing next to them. The older ones seemed to be in their 20s, while the younger ones were only 3 or 4 years old. Most of the people around him were important members of the Philo family, as well as the guards. Zhao Fu and the old king sat within a luxurious carriage. The old king sat there like a puppet, not moving at all. Zhao Fu opened the curtains and looked at the people from the Pharaoh family. The group slowly arrived at the castle, and Zhao Fu controlled the old king to get off the carriage while he acted like a guard and followed beside him. The leader of the Pharaoh family gave a courteous smile as he said, "Your Majesty chose the Pharaoh family because you trust us. I will take you around my territory and enjoy the scenery." The old king was currently under Zhao Fu's control, but his consciousness was still in his body. He knew what was going on outside, and he became quite angry. This was because the leader of the Pharaoh family had not even bowed to him. Moreover, the Kingdom of Rock most likely belonged to the royal family, while the Pharaoh family treated the territory as their own and treated him as a guest. Zhao Fu ignored the old king's anger and controlled the old king to smile as he said, "This will be my last patrol, so I'll choose you, who I trust the most." The leader of the Pharaoh family smiled as he said, "Your Majesty, I've already prepared a banquet to welcome you. Please come, Your Majesty." The old king nodded and walked into the castle. Zhao Fu followed behind him, giving off a very ordinary aura. No one paid any attention to Zhao Fu's existence, and Zhao Fu did not say anything either. After arriving at the castle's hall, there were many tables that were a few meters long, and there was a sumptuous feast on them. Chapter 2447. Zhao Fu controlled the elderly king to sit at the head of the table, while family leader Pharaoh sat next to him. Everyone else took their seats, and soon the hall was filled with people. Everyone looked at the elderly king. The elderly king smiled as he raised his wine cup and said, "Come, let's drink together for La Kingdom." After saying this, he tilted his head back and downed the wine in his cup. Everyone else also raised their cups and downed the wine in their cups. Everyone else also raised their cups and downed the wine in their cups. The scene immediately became lively. A few people at the table were drinking and chatting. Some of them were eating meat with big mouthfuls. The elderly king also started a drink with the Pharaoh family like his friends. It had been noon, but in the blink of an eye, the crystals in the hall lit up, and a white light illuminated the hall. By now, there were already people lying on the table, and the table was littered with leftovers, making it look quite messy. The elderly king's face was completely red, and he looked as if he was about to pass out. He smiled as he drank another cup with family leader Pharaoh, before collapsing on the table and snoring away. Zhao Fu had the guard beside him help the elderly king away. Family leader Pharaoh was also a bit drunk. With the help of a few guards, he and his 3 wives returned to their rooms. Soon, a man and a woman entered as well. One of them was handsome and wore a black suit, while the other was beautiful and tall. They were both in their 20s, and they were the eldest son and daughter of the Pharaoh family. Zhao Fu stealthily entered. Within the room, family leader Pharaoh sat on a chair and used his power to dissolve the wine he had drunk. The 3 beautiful women stood next to him. At that moment, the young man said, "Father, that elderly king is already drunk and dared to come to our territory with so few people. Why don't we imprison the elderly king and the Pharaoh family and let us control Lock Kingdom?" The woman also said, "I agree with Big Brother's idea. The Lock family has controlled Lock Kingdom for hundreds of years, and Lock Kingdom is declining by the day. I think it's time for a change of leadership. Father is more suitable to be the king than that elderly king." After dispelling the alcohol, family leader Fellow returned to normal and said seriously, "Things aren't as simple as you think. Since he dared to come, he definitely made preparations. Moreover, he gathered the royal army before coming. Perhaps this is a trap." The woman in the red dress smiled as she said, "You two are still too young. This is an extremely important matter, so you can't afford to be careless. Otherwise, the entire Pharaoh family could become a delicacy." The beautiful woman with the gentle and quiet temperament said, Also, this is the start of a war between the 2 planes. The situation is even more complicated. We have to be careful in all kinds of things. The old king has been on the throne for so long. He's definitely smarter than the 2 of you. I believe that this planar war is an opportunity for us, family head Pharaoh. We can use other powers to weaken the kingdom's power. Also, at this time, the other kingdoms don't want to have too many wars. Don't worry, the 2 of you. One day, the Fellow family will definitely take over the Kingdom of Lock. When that happens, the Kingdom of Lock will be renamed to the Kingdom of Fellow. The handsome young man and beautiful woman nodded in understanding. They had thought too simply and hadn't thought as far as their parents. The beautiful middle-aged woman in a deep blue dress smiled as she said, "All right, it's already very late now. Your father and I are going to rest. You should also rest early." The 2 of them nodded and prepared to leave. Zhao Fu lightly laughed and walked out from the void. He looked at the Fellow family and smiled as he said, "There's no need to leave." Seeing Zhao Fu suddenly appear, everyone felt quite shocked. They recognized that Zhao Fu was the old king's bodyguard, and the Fellow family hurriedly said, "Kill him. We can't let him leave this room, or else the Fellow family will perish." The beautiful middle-aged woman immediately took out a card and threw it at Zhao Fu. The card turned into a ray of light as it shot toward Zhao Fu. A 2-meter wide ring of light appeared around Zhao Fu, giving off a powerful sealing power that locked Zhao Fu's body in place. The beautiful middle-aged woman in a deep blue dress also threw out a card, which turned into countless motes of light and disappeared. Vines grew from the ground and bound Zhao Fu's body. Seeing this, everyone let out a sigh of relief. The red-haired woman smiled as she said, "He's been bound by 2 cards. Even a normal divine realm cultivator wouldn't be able to break free, so we can relax." The Fellow family's leader stood up and looked at Zhao Fu as he said coldly, "Tell me why you're here, and I'll give you a quick death." Zhao Fu looked at the vines and the ring of light around him and said, "Is this the card's power? It feels quite strong, and its casting speed is quite fast." A look of anger appeared on the Fellow family's leader's face. "Didn't you hear me talking to you?" Zhao Fu raised his head and lightly laughed as he looked at the Fellow family's leader. The handsome-looking young man next to him said coldly, "Father, I think he needs to be taught a lesson before he'll listen. Leave the rest to me. I'll let him know what fear feels like." The Fellow family's leader thought about it and said, "All right, as long as you don't kill him, you can do whatever you want to him. It's very likely that he knows the old emperor's goal, so we have to investigate this thoroughly." "Are you sure you bound me?" Zhao Fu's lips curved into a condescending smile as he looked at everyone. Hearing this, everyone felt quite startled and looked at Zhao Fu. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a massive wave of power exploded out from Zhao Fu's body. The vines binding Zhao Fu's body instantly shattered, and the ring of light around Zhao Fu's body directly collapsed. Everyone looked quite confused. They had never thought that this would happen. The fellow family's leader said in terror, "How do you have such power?" Zhao Fu smiled as he asked, "What do you think?" The fellow family's leader's face became pale as he yelled, "Hurry and run. Notify the others. I'll stop him." The others did not hesitate and quickly ran in all directions. This was the only way to survive. A card flew to family leader Pharaoh's forehead and gave off boundless yellow light as a powerful wave of power entered family leader Pharaoh's body. Family leader Pharaoh's body erupted with yellow flames, giving off terrifying power as he rushed toward Zhao Fu. Clang, clang, clang. At that moment, Zhao Fu coldly laughed as chains shot out from the air towards the people around him incredibly quickly. Everyone tried to resist, but they were completely powerless against the countless chains, and they were all bound up. The fellow family's leader was bound by the chains, and no matter how much he struggled, he could not break free at all. The others were the same. They looked at Zhao Fu in terror, not knowing how Zhao Fu was going to deal with them. Chapter 2448. The fellow family's leader struggled a few more times, but it was useless. He gave up and said, "What benefits did the king give you? I can give you 10 times as much as you spare us. If you're willing to obey me, I'll give you everything you want." Zhao Fu looked at the 3 women and smiled as he asked, "Are your 3 wives willing as well?" The handsome young man furiously cursed, "You bastard! I want you to die a horrible death." A trace of anger appeared on the fellow family's leader's face as he said, "That won't do. If you want women, I can collect them for you." Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "I won't tease you anymore. That king is just a puppet that I control. Now the Lock Kingdom is mine, and you can't give me that." Everyone looked incredibly shocked. This is too shocking. The Lock Kingdom's king has been silently controlled by someone. Now, the Lock Kingdom is under a massive shadow, and no one has noticed this. The Lock Kingdom might perish because of this. The fellow family's leader looked terrified as he said, "Just who are you?" Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "There's no harm in telling you. After all, you won't be able to escape from me. I'm someone from the Heaven Awakened world." Everyone was once again shocked. The Heaven Awakened world was at war with them, so why would someone from the Heaven Awakened world infiltrate here? All of the king's strange actions from before were now explained. Boom! Zhao Fu stretched out a hand, and a massive wave of demonic energy flowed out from his palm towards the fellow family's leader and the handsome young man, easily controlling their bodies. Zhao Fu looked at the remaining 4 women. The women understood what was going to happen, and they looked both furious and afraid. The red-haired woman thought for a moment before gritting her teeth and saying, "As long as we become your women, will you spare the fellow family?" Zhao Fu smiled as he said, As long as you obediently obey me, I naturally won't harm the fellow family's people." The crimson-haired woman turned to look at the other 2 beautiful women and the arrogant woman as she said, "Right now, for our husband, for our children, for our loved ones, and for family leader fellow, we have no other choice." The others thought about it and nodded with a pained expression. Zhao Fu smiled and loosened the chains that bound them. He said in a commanding tone, "Come and serve me." The 4 women glared at Zhao Fu in shame and indignation, but when they thought about their families and loved ones, they still squatted under Zhao Fu and served Zhao Fu. Family leader Pharaoh and family leader Ingjun were about to explode with rage as they watched their own mother and wife serve a man right in front of them. They wanted nothing more than to chop Zhao Fu into minced meat so that Zhao Fu would die a horrible death. What enraged them even more was what happened next. Zhao Fu and the 4 other women were having an intense time on top of the Pharaoh family leader's bed. The 3 beautiful women and the arrogant woman became extremely lewd, and they began to moan in a humiliating manner. Their words were like sharp knives stabbing into the hearts of the Philo family leader and the handsome young man. They had never thought that their wife and mother would be so shameless. They were practically prostitutes who had completely betrayed them. However, they had never thought that the four of them, who had been so embarrassed and angry, would become like this. The three beautiful women and their daughter had never thought that they would be so happy. They had already forgotten everything else and were completely immersed in it. This continued until midnight, and the Philo family leader and the handsome young man felt as if their hearts were bleeding. Their wife and mother had been violated right in front of them, and it had gone on for so long. However, their bodies were bound and could not move at all. Even if they wanted to curse, they could not make a sound. After putting on the clothes, Zhao Fu hugged the four women. He now knew their names: Iwini, Frances, Josie, and Judy. Iwini was the beautiful woman with crimson hair. Iwini was the crimson-haired beauty, and her face was quite red as she lay in Zhao Fu's embrace. She placed the Flo family's leader to the side and asked, "What's your next goal?" Zhao Fu played with the thing in front of her chest as he smiled and said, "After taking control of the Philo family leader, I'll subdue the other families and completely control the Kingdom of Locke. My army will use the Kingdom of Locke as a base to attack the surrounding kingdoms." Frances was the gentle-looking woman, and she said in surprise, "You're the ruler of a kingdom? You sound like you're quite powerful, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to have such terrifying power." Zhao Fu lightly smiled and nodded. Josie was the gentle-looking woman, and she shyly asked, "Are you satisfied with our bodies? We can all serve you in the future, but you can't harm the Philo family or our loved ones." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "I'm very satisfied. I like people like you. As long as you're obedient, I won't harm the Philo family." Judy was Josie's daughter, the arrogant woman. She said with a red face, "Now that you've taken my body, can you be my man?" Zhao Fu said, "Now that you're all my women, call me husband." Judy happily called out, "Husband." With such a powerful person and the ruler of a terrifying faction, as a man, Judy naturally felt quite happy. The three beautiful women's faces became red, and they also called out. This caused the Philo family's leader to explode in anger. Not only was his wife doing it with another man in front of him, but she was also affectionately calling him husband. If it wasn't for the fact that his power was restricting his body, he would have coughed up a mouthful of blood. Were the three of them still his beloved wives? How had things become like this? Before he could think for too long, his wives' lewd voices once again sounded out from the bed. They once again started to do indescribable things with that bastard. The next morning, the sun rose over the horizon, and sunlight illuminated the land. Zhao Fu stretched and got off the bed. He looked at the four women sleeping soundly and did not disturb them. He opened the door and walked out. When the female attendants saw Zhao Fu walk out of the family's leader's room, they looked quite confused. However, they did not think too much about it. After all, the family's leader and young master were also inside, and it was most likely that the family's leader had something to discuss with him. However, none of them would have thought that the family's leader and young master would be lying on the ground, and their wives and young mistress would be lying on the bed. Their clothes were scattered all over the ground. After Zhao Fu finished his breakfast, everyone in the room returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. Zhao Fu had used his power to control the Philo family's leader and the handsome young man. If he did not use his power to control them, they might go crazy and try to kill Zhao Fu. Following this, Zhao Fu gave the three beautiful women some instructions before taking his people and leaving the Philo family's territory, heading to the next family's territory. Peek, you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.